Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the beautiful Texas Motor Speedway for tonight's coverage of the Northwest Cup Series, as the top drivers in the series get ready to attack a brand new challenge. The Texas Motor Speedway is all set to go to host 134 laps of exciting action. Justin Prince with you on side in the booth tonight is Greg Rentz with Charles Wooden in the director's seat. Greg, first things first, glad to have you on with us for tonight's action, but it's going to be a unique race because it is the first time these drivers have been on the brand new Texas Motor Speedway on the iRacing service with the brand new banking.
I'm excited to see how these guys can adapt, Justin. We've seen it in practice. The drivers are very, very close together. Looks like the top 25 or so were separated by just 0.3 of a second. A lot of drivers getting used to the new banking in turn 1 and 2, the new layout for the new Texas Motor Speedway. First time here on the iRacing server for these guys. Race number 4 in a very tight points race. This has all the makings for an instant classic here on LSR TV tonight.
It absolutely does, especially with some of these drivers having some good starts already. Seth Frazier with 2 victories on the trot, entering race number 4 of the season. The overall points leader, though, coming into tonight by just 4 points, Dan West Jr. Jeff Stabnell, Daryl Tidwick, and Bruce Lee Weaver round out the top 5 of the point standings. And you mentioned that competitiveness. There's a chance for some drivers to try and take a stranglehold of the championship hopes. Tonight, for others, this could be a chance to make it very interesting for the middle portion.
Indeed, you look through the point standings, you've got several drivers just within a handful of points of each other and a couple of ties deeper in the field. You've got Brett Johnson and Daniel Masters, Brett Johnson and Scott Hutchinson tied for 10th. Daniel Masters and Casey Tillman just a couple of points separated between the two of them. This is going to be an awesome race tonight, very early on, and we are looking forward to 134 laps here at the Texas Motor Speedway. And Justin, the drivers were saying that this race might be a little bit of a challenge as far as tire wear goes with this new Texas Motor Speedway.
Yeah, great point to bring up because the drivers were discussing this in preparation for tonight's action. Drivers expecting 6 degrees of camber, for example, in their race cars. That may sound fine and good for some that may not have the race knowledge, but when it comes to the camber with the tire model on the iRacing service, you run with max camber, Greg, you're burning up your tires and potentially going to have too much tire heat. That can mean a lot of tire conservation for these competitors, especially in the less degrees of banking in turns 1 and 2, which requires a bit more wheel into it.
And we saw a bit of that in practice. We saw a lot of drivers being conservative. We actually didn't see as many incidents in practice as we were thinking there might be with the amount of tire wear that was going on once these drivers got 10, 15, even 20 laps into a run, and still very competitive. But however, it all comes down to how the opening laps go this one, Justin, because we all know as soon as the green flag falls, some drivers will get a little bit more impatient than others, and it's all about keeping your cool, especially with a setup that's prone to cause a lot of heavy tire wear in the early going. It's going to be a race of attrition, and hopefully we don't see too many mistakes early on.
And there's been a lot of discussion from some of the drivers tonight to make sure they keep things nice and clean tonight after a lot of attrition in the first couple races of the campaign. And you mentioned the chance of lots of safety from these drivers tonight. One of the changes, drivers only have 12 incident points. That's 3 potential contacts with cars, for example, before they have to serve a drive-through penalty. If they reach an incident of 20 total, they are done for the race. They still have a fast repair available for them tonight. But how much does that factor in as a driver knowing you don't have as much wiggle room for, say, getting in trouble a couple times a race?
That's going to weigh on their minds, and they're going to be like, okay, I can't afford to take too many risks too early because of that. If something was to go wrong, that's a check right there. And like you said, you only have 2, 3, possibly 4, depending on the severity of the contact before you have to serve that pass-through penalty. So that's going to be weighing in a lot of drivers' minds early in the racing here, Justin, because of that fact that they only have so many as opposed to what we've seen with the series so far this year. They're putting a little bit added They're putting a little bit added. I lost my train of thought. Little added policing of themselves. That's what I was looking for there. With
Yes.
with the drivers here, they have had quite a few cautions over the course of the first 3 races. So with this little added policing, it's going to put it in the driver's hands to say, hey, we got to be a little bit more careful. We got to be smarter here. A move on lap 10 can wait till lap 15 if it means not making a costly mistake, especially with the tire wear that we mentioned earlier. The longer into a green flag run we go, we're going to start seeing drivers getting more and more out of shape. And that also begs another question, Justin. Pit strategy. How often do you expect to see these guys coming down pit road?
That's going to become the question, especially with tire wear being such a big factor here, as discussed with how the setup is for these fixed setups for the cars tonight. Drivers, though, have made their way onto the track. Qualifying is underway for these competitors tonight for the Northwest Cup Series. One of the first competitors on the track at the moment is Travis Barnes, and it's one of the first chances to take a look at the difficulty in turns 1 and 2 for these drivers because of how flat the banking is compared to what 3 and 4 used to be, Greg.
For sure, turn 3 and 4, he's coming through right now, is the McDonald's number 3 of Travis Barnes coming to take the green flag. And right here, this is the section that's new and foreign to these drivers. As they come through the tri-oval into turn number 1, significantly less banking. As you see Barnes kind of attack it, go down to the apron, he sets the bar to 28.896 here for the first lap. Track temperature, Justin, a solid 100 degrees, triple digits. Barnes on the top, but with that track temp being how it is, how do you anticipate these drivers to attack this racetrack in qualifying?
Well, it's always important as we're following along here with the second lap being the quickest to keep momentum going for the second lap. Travis Barnes able to do that with a 28.730 to start off qualifying. One of a couple drivers to put in qualifying time so far. Let's get the chance to look at some of the other drivers to emphasize this, because there's a couple approaches for the drivers where some may elect to go along the top wall or try and keep it slow in the first lap to save their equipment. Others like to go full out, such as Ryan Maines. He's trying to attack the 24 degrees of banking in turns 3 and 4. Fought along with him as he tries to get into the 7s like his 2 compatriots. Let's see. A 28.735, 5/1000 of the second off the pole, Greg.
Just very close, but someone did just nip the pole. Justin McClure in the number 10 by 4/1000ths of a second nips Travis Barnes for the pole, and Barnes was near the top of the charts in practice, Justin, whereas McClure was kind of hanging out around 10th or 15th, so McClure knocking him off for now. And like we mentioned in practice, very, very tight field right now. First 4 at a 28.7 bracket, and then you've got Ottenbacher and Daniel Masters each in the 28.8s, and then the rest of the field 28.9. So very competitive qualifying session here in the early stages as more and more drivers take their qualifying times, Justin.
Ottenbacher's already completed his laps. He's trying to get some more practice on this new configuration in Texas. Again, for those that are tuning in, brand new circuit on the iRacing service. First time across the service, many competitors are approaching this racetrack. The difference in the banking in turns 3 and 4 is 24 degrees. However, as changed a couple years ago in real life, the banking down to 20 degrees in turn 1 and 2. Lots of competitors say the bottom line is the preferred line because any higher than the middle groove, you're up in the marbles for these drivers. Following along as some of the others finish up their times. Among some of the drivers taking to the racetrack at the moment, it appears to be Dan West Jr., who's just put in his first qualifying time. Again, coming in as the points leader. What do you think's going through the minds of a lot of these drivers here? We discussed this a little bit of trying to approach incidents, but what do you think's going through the minds of the drivers knowing it's also a new racetrack in a big race for some of these competitors to try and get on the trot and the victories?
Like you just said, they want the victory. They want to be the first driver to say, hey, I want to race at the new Texas Motor Speedway. And no better candidate than the current points leader, Dan West Jr., who, to the surprise of probably no one, just went to the top at a 28.624. The current points leader out to the pole right now, as about 20 drivers have taken time. But like you mentioned earlier, Justin, they want to be that first driver to get the win here at the new Texas. And we see more and more drivers, they're taking a little bit of extra time in qualifying, a little extra lap to make sure they've got this track figured out as much as possible. And we've seen it in qualifying almost unanimously. Like you said, bottom line is the preferred line here at the New Texas. And I'm very curious to see what's going to happen going into turn one with the full field going here on this initial start, because that is, of course, the most worked on area of this new track is turn 1 and 2. So we'll see what happens when these drivers sail off into turn 1 and 2 in a race for the first time.
We'll have to definitely see, because it could be tricky. As we take a look at Casey Tillman, he's on his second lap. First lap, not the greatest, a 29.1. Will he be able to build up enough momentum on the second lap to bump himself up from the bottom of the top 20? 28.901. Only good enough to get to 12, so Tillman not feeling the most comfortable compared to some of the others so far in the session. Take a look at Corey Walters. He's came away with a victory this season. He's one of the drivers I think you have to keep an eye on, because he's pretty decent when it comes to mile and a halfs, Greg.
Yeah, Corey Walters, 1 win on the season. You see him coming through 3 and 4, and he took a little bit of a higher arc into turn number 3 than we've seen from the rest of the field. We'll see how it worked for him on the charts. He's the 22nd driver to take time, and he is number 22, 29.448. I'm wondering if that higher arc is playing a role into that, as he is 0.3 off of the next guy ahead of him, Ricky Bozer, in the 42. So Corey Walters, a win on the season already. Kind of a surprise to see him so far shotgun on the field in the high entry once again. So not sure if Corey Walters has that car the way he would like it on entry, perhaps, as he takes his second lap, jumps up to 17th at a 29.972. So possibly the setup not to Corey Walters' liking. They mentioned it in the drivers' meeting, Justin, that this was going to be a pretty tricky setup with those 6 inches of camber and all that. So maybe Corey Walters having a little bit of a harder time adjusting to that new setup than some of the rest of the field.
Yeah, absolutely, with some of these drivers near max on that. Devon West trying to go near max in terms of throttle, coming to a 28.649. Couldn't get to the pole, though. Only 2 drivers in that range, and they're both West as the last name so far. That's how the rookie has crumbled in terms of timing so far. About 3 minutes to go in qualifying. Among some of the last drivers putting in times and holding out are Casey Garber and co. We talked about this a little bit before tonight's broadcast here, Greg, where you know a lot of these drivers personally. What were some of the discussions like with them in preparation coming into tonight?
Not surprised to see Casey Garber waiting as long as he did to come out. He likes to wait until near the end of the qualifying session to come out. He was fast in practice, so we'll see how he goes. His practice time was good enough for quick time. However, his qualifying time, not as strong, 16th, 28.869. But one that I will be paying attention to when he makes his way out is Seth Frazier in the number 32. 2 wins on the year. Hasn't turned a lap in this session yet. No practice. His first laps on the track is going to be qualifying. And he just rolled out and kind of said, hey, abort mission. I'm going to try it again. Here he comes out now. 2 wins on the year for Wenatchee, Washington's Seth Frazier in the 32. First laps of the session coming up right now, Justin.
This is going to be interesting to see what Seth can do here. And you have to remember, too, one of the main things adjusted with that track, too, you seen that wider apron. That's going to make it a little bit more interesting for the pit exits along that flatter banking. Frazier trying to build up speed on the middle line for the start of his first lap. Keep an eye on the stop launch. He's been very strong, a top 5 car every race, Greg.
Very strong, and he is fresh off of a Super Late Model Championship in our other Northwest series that we have, the iRacing.com Northwest Tour. Seth Frazier, who you're watching right now, come off turn number 2. He just won the championship in that series a couple of weeks ago, so fresh off a championship and 2 wins on the year to start. You could argue that there is no driver in the Northwest hotter in iRacing right now than this young man right here, Seth Frazier, coming to take the white flag.
Second lap starting at 29.3, though, in the first lap, so not as quick as we expect. The track temp is going up here. for these competitors, and Seth Frazier just jumped the cushion into the fence. So Seth Frazier, one of the top drivers this season, will start at the back of the field. His second lap will not count.
And he was 30th of 30 on the first lap, so that's going to be tough. However, we've seen this time and time again out of Seth Frazier in the Northwest Racing Series in the past. If he's got to work his way from the back, he knows his way to do it. As he takes a second lap, it's not going to count because, of course, if you hit the wall in iRacing qualifying, your lap does not count. So Frazier will have to start in the back and work his way through second in points. That could be a huge detriment, but I will not be surprised if we see some pit strategy out of the 32 to try to get himself back up there in position to make some noise before the end of this one.
It's going to be very intriguing how this race now cycles with Frazier at the back of the field. But the drivers have finished off qualifying. 30 total competitors out of the 36 entrants put in qualifying times. Let's go 10 at a time, shall we, to see how they'll stack up for tonight's race at the brand new Texas Motor Speedway. Dan West Jr. brings them to the pole tonight. He'll start alongside Devon West, both drivers in the 28.6s. Only one other driver joined them in that category, and it's the man in third position, Jeff Stabnell, with a strong run at a 28.698 alongside Scott Mann in row number 2. Row 3 will see Justin McClure, one of the early qualifiers, start in the 5th position, with Stefan O'Hare starting in 6th position. Travis Barnes starts in 7th tonight in row number 4. Ryan Maines rounds out the top 8. And inside the top 10, Chris White will start his 83 machine alongside Bill Ross Jr. in the standings, Greg.
Roy Grande taking the number 11th spot, double one, hoping it's a single one at the end of the night. To his outside, Brett Johnson in the number 7. Stephen Paulson rolling off lucky 13 tonight with John Ottenbacher to his outside in 14th. Rounding out the top 15 is Chad Malik with a 28.855 for the final spot in the top 15. Sean Breitzman, one of the hotter drivers in the series as well, very hot in the truck series as well, rolling off 16th, 28.860. To his outside is Casey Garber in the 94. He will roll off 17th, so he will actually be in the row behind Breitzman, with Daniel Masters 18th. Coming up in row number 10 are another few Northwest Tour drivers, Casey Tillman and Eric Cheney.
Gary Nichols starts in 21st position tonight as his Ford Mustang will get the chance to be next to Carl Burke off the start in 22nd. Corey Walters starts 23rd, Daryl Tidquick 24th. And deep in the field, some of the top drivers in the standings. In 25th, Bruce Lee Weaver will start alongside Brian Barnes. Following row, we'll see Stephen Bartlett in 27th. Brad Carpenter, decent performance at Rockingham in 28th. Rounding out the qualifiers, Ricky Bowser in 29th. And Seth Frazier, second in the points, will start in 30th, the last of the drivers to put in qualifying times. Rest of the field is on provisionals. Jesse Gray, Ray Fournier, along with Frank Harris, Scott Hutchinson, Joshua Beal, Dan Stuzzi, and Dana Rogers are those drivers who did not put in qualifying times tonight. At the back part of the field, should be a fun one here at the brand new configuration of Texas Motor Speedway. 20 degrees of banking in 1 and 2, 24 degrees of banking in turns 3 and 4. Your keys to victory tonight, Greg, for this interesting one.
Keys to victory for me, you got to be patient in the early going. This is a new track, new configuration, a very difficult setup, very tricky. You're going to have to show some patience here in the early stages. And then, of course, you're got to have to play with pit strategy because these drivers are going to be pitting nonstop. We may see someone try to steal something if a caution was to come out right before a pit stop. We may see some drivers try to stretch it as far as they can to try to catch that caution, because with the setup the way it is, you would have to expect tires to be eaten up as quickly as you can and drivers looking for fresh Goodyears as much as possible, Justin.
Gonna be a fun one here at Texas Motor Speedway. iRacing official pace car is off. Dan West Jr. the control car, Devon West on the outside line. Green flags waving, we're underway from No Limits, Texas.
Great start by Dan West Jr. to get out on his son, Devin. in the 15, and Jeff Stabnow coming with him in the 24. So Jeff Stabnow able to get it going, and early caution, Justin. We didn't even make it through turn 1.
Wow, a massive stack up at the front, straight away at the start and finish line. Multiple drivers couldn't get going, and it was a stack up where the 8 machine was, in Nichols, where one driver didn't get going, and then the big one happened.
Not sure what happened here.
Yeah, just absolute calamity to say the very least off the start. At least 10 drivers were stopped and already suffered damage early in this race. Well, when you think back of the history of Texas Motor Speedway, the first lap here at this racetrack in the 1990s started with a caution flag in turns 1 and 2. We don't even get to turn 1 and 2 before we get a yellow flag at this configuration for this series in iRacing.
Yeah, I can't say I'm surprised that it happened this early. I was hoping it wouldn't, but with the new configuration, you gotta figure some guys were a little bit antsy to try to get up there and make some noise in the early stages, as we're already under caution as the field catching up to the pace car. But a tough break for some of these guys.
Yeah, already behind the 8 ball and potentially having to use fast repairs in the races so far. Already, a couple of them already fell a lap behind, such as Ricky Bowser in the 42. The reason you see Stephen Paulson there, he was starting from the pit lane, and because of how long you have to wait in the pit lane to get out of your stall there, Greg, he doesn't even get to start on the lead lap as you usually would, about 20 seconds behind the field. Instead, he's forced to take an early wave around. But a couple of drivers already having to take repairs. Barnes, Burke, Weaver, Carpenter, Nichols, Walters, and Harris all ducked down to the pit lane under this caution flag.
So a lot of guys who have potential to have some really good runs here. The main one for me that would have to keep an eye on would be the 31 of Brad Carpenter. Like you mentioned, great run at Rockingham. Not the qualifying effort that he wanted, and unfortunately, that qualifying effort put him right in the middle of that incident, right on the initial start. So definitely not the start he was looking for as opposed to some of the other drivers, Justin.
Yeah, it was an interesting way to start things off here as we come to 132 laps to go already. The completion of lap number 3 coming under caution flag here. What were some of the other discussions with some of the drivers you had like when it came to this event for tonight, especially knowing some of the personal connections as the 42 comes in?
Well, a lot of drivers I talked to about this race, they were excited about the new configuration, but they also were a little bit worried about the setup that was going on. I was talking to them a little bit in final practice, and they all pretty much had the same thing to say. It was going to be interesting with the setup, and honestly, this caution might be the best thing for that, because then they're saving tires a little bit, and they can get a second shot at an initial restart to see how it's going to go before they have to change tires. So in a weird way, this might be a blessing in disguise for some of those guys who may not have been as aware of what the new setup was going to do on the initial start. They kind of get a mulligan if they were ahead of the incident there, up around the top 10, top 15 or so. They are going to get a second shot to be like, okay, now I kind of have an idea of what it's going to do on the initial start with just a couple of laps of tire wear, because we really only made it about 34 yards before we had the first caution. So maybe a lot of guys are kind of looking at it as this is another shot to figure out what your car is going to do in the initial beginnings of this race. A 134 lap race, a long distance here at the new Texas. So probably we're going to see some guys playing it safe. I thought we were going to see it, but we saw it on the initial start there. Sometimes that's just not how it works out.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting when Dan West Jr. brings them back to the green flag, how they'll go. And we've seen how Devon West just dropped like a rock, just being on the middle line at that start. That's how big the bottom line can be here at this racetrack for Devon West. He's going to get the privilege of starting on the top again, unfortunately for him. At this point, how do you attack this, knowing that if you start on the middle line, or the top line rather, on the restart, you're likely losing a few spots?
If you're Devin West in the 15, who's making his debut, you're going to want to just be as patient as possible coming up through the gears on this initial start. And honestly, you just got to hope and pray that you can get down to the bottom lane as soon as you can, because we saw on that initial start the outside lane struggled, and Jeff Stabnow was able to get right past Devin West, and he was able to bring the 10 of Justin McClure with him before that caution came out. So West gets a mulligan here on the restart. We'll see if he's able to make the outside lane work a little bit now that he has a car in front of him to kind of reference that. Jeff Stabnow, the 24, will be leading the charge on the outside. We'll see how he handles the outside and if West can learn anything from watching this 24 restart.
We'll see, as Dan West Jr. is the control car, choosing the bottom line in the 55. Stabnow starts on the outside of the 24. McClure and Devin West are in row 2. Barnes and Mann in row 3. Row 4, O'Hare and White as the pace car goes off the racetrack. Let's try this again, shall we? Good jump for West Jr. Green flags back out. We're racing again from Texas.
Stabnow, just like the initial restart there, that inside lane so much stronger. I'm almost wondering if that may be a product of Dan West, how he's taking the initial restart there, as maybe he's catching both Stabnow and his son Devin sleeping as the side-by-side battle breaks out for a second between Stabnow and McClure. That's Stabnow outside, McClure inside. Stabnow had the run there, but McClure slides up, almost got into him there. They kind of had to separate there, but McClure will get the spot. Justin McClure to second as Dan West Jr. leads the first green flag lap race of the night, with McClure, Stabnow, and Scott Mann, Devin West rounding out the top 5 here early, Justin.
That time McClure went right up the hill and nearly hit the outside safer barrier. And you can see, again, one of the main things when it comes to this package. On the short run, the bottom line is the place to be. You can eventually get runs on the top line in 3 and 4 here tonight. But with the way 1 and 2 is, if you lose that bottom, you're dropping back. Stabnow this time got the bottom back. McClure trying to fight hard on the top line, able to get a ramp off.
Great run by McClure there on the outside. And that's the thing with the outside lane, is you're so much stronger on exit. You're able to get such a launch off corner exit that it almost negates the advantage the inside lane has at the start of a corner, as they were neck and neck there. I couldn't tell who it was who was in front of him at the line. Scoring has it as McClure, but Stabnow able to clear him going into turn number 1, and McClure's in trouble as he falls into the clutches of Scott Mann. They almost got together, and that allowed Stabnow to get a really good jump off turn number 2 and put some distance between himself and that battle, as we see it beginning to break out as well. Travis Barnes and Devin West behind them, with Chris White coming into the picture, as well as Stephen O'Hare. So they're starting to settle down single file, Justin, but as they're making their way, are you surprised to see some guys still trying the outside, or would you think by now we would all be sneaking around on the bottom?
I think it's partly thing is, Greg, I think they're trying to still get comfortable with how you need to take the entry, a bit more wheel needed. One of the main things, though, too, here is you need to save tires to be able to be good on the long run. And the way things are looking, many of these drivers are keeping it full throttle in turn 3 and 4. But when you look at the speeds, they're having to lift so much just around the corner, Greg.
We'll see how it happens here as they make their way into turn number 3 and 4. This is where you said they were wide open. However, going into turn number 2, not the case. And is that also a product of the banking in turn 2 being less than it has been?
I think
Whereas
so.
3 and 4, you can hold it wide open, but the lesser banking in 1 and 2, you kind of have to let off the throttle a little bit. And so far, I've noticed if anyone's making a move, it's been right there at the entrance to turn 1. So probably that's going to be where most of the passing happens this afternoon.
Absolutely agree with you on that. That's where a lot of the passes were potentially set up in the railroad, as well as potentially the outside line in 3 and 4 in the long run for drivers in last year's races at Texas Motor Speedway when the package first made its debut. But right now, everyone's singling, filing out. Bill Ross amongst some of the other drivers that have settled down. Roy Grande amongst some of the drivers that are slipping around. He's in 11th position in a 4-car train. keep an eye on Ottenbacher and Co. as they're gaining in quick.
See this battle coming up. Malik and Ottenbacher trying to get up on Grande, and the one in front of them is Brett Johnson in the 7. Casey Garber also beginning to close in on that, and there you see some of the draft that we've seen with this new aero package. If the guy behind him can catch a draft of the car in front of him, he can pull right up really quickly. It's kind of weird seeing it work almost like a plate track, Daytona and Talladega. Obviously not to the extent that we see at those two tracks, but it's just so odd seeing it now. But with this new aero package, it's just how 1.5 mile racing has been lately, as there you see Grande able to pull away from Malik and Ottenbacher. So it's turning into a battle now for the 12th spot single-handedly between Malik and Ottenbacher, as Malik holding on for now, but Ottenbacher is not going away. He is filling the mirror of that 6 car.
By the way, there's a fight going on as well in 4th position up the road. Justin McClure got attacked by Scott Mann, and now he's lost the bottom of the racetrack. Freight train now by a couple different drivers. Devin West already by. Travis Boards already by. And here's the perfect example. You lose the bottom of the entry, you're nearly up to the wall. That's how little the banking can be in that part of the racetrack. So McClure is really struggling to figure out how to get around this racetrack on the mid-run already.
Wow, what a run. Did you see the run there that Stephen O'Hare got on Barnes going through turn 3 and 4, and he follows it up with a move to the inside. He got a jump going into turn number 3. I'm making the outside work a little bit. Was able to pull right up onto Travis Barnes and made it stick through 3 and 4. Got to the inside, and here off of turn number 2, Barnes almost fell victim, but he gets a good run on the outside, and this is allowing McClure to get back into the picture. But don't look now, Chris White is right there, as there we see the 41 of Stephen O'Hare get past Travis Barnes. So that started a lap ago. So there we saw it took almost a full lap for O'Hare to be able to make that pass on Barnes.
I think Barnes maybe just gave it the ghost though, Greg, because he knew the importance of the bottom on this racetrack already. Already sliding up the track is McClure, though. Chris White nearly got a chance to dive underneath heading into 3 and trying to back things up. By the way, for Seth Frazier, one of the storylines for tonight, he's already got himself to 17th position. That's the good news. The bad news, he's got no drafting partner, and at Cars in the Grass, Eric Cheney is running over the logos.
And he pulls onto pit road. Not sure what happened to Eric Cheney. He pulls into the pits, and he is just going to take a tow, unfortunately, and try to get back out there as soon as possible. Not sure what happened there, Justin.
It just looked like he maybe stuffed it into the wall with how the damage was, as we've seen on the replay. But now he is one of the first drivers to duck his way down there. Ray Fournier also is already sitting in the pit area still. We also seen Beal not make the start, unfortunately, tonight in the 112 machine. Battle for the lead starting to shape up, though. Last time by, Stabnow was nearly 2/10 quicker than the race leader, West Jr., and now he's got the chance to try draft. No, he's forced to lift off the gas in 3.
He had such a strong run off of turn number 2. You could see him physically getting closer and closer to the back bumper of West. But right when he went into turn 3, it almost looked like he bobbled just a hair, and that cost him to slow down. And now we're seeing him have to recover. And you mentioned he was 2/10 quicker the time before. That time they were even, but he had such a good run off of turn number 2. Had to imagine it would have been 2/10 again had it not happened going into turn number 3. And you're starting to see him come back a little bit, but he's taking a little bit of a lower exit off the corner than Dan West Jr. is, Justin.
No. And one of the main things I've noticed, though, when it comes to this package, if you're able to run the corner a little bit lower, it's usually a good sign. Here's the downside, though. It can potentially burn up the tires a little bit. Same on going lower on entry. You take a flat corner entry, you heat up the right front tire, Greg.
And that is the tire that a lot of drivers were worried about with the setup that they had. The heavy tire wear, they were worried about the right front. So not surprised to possibly see that already come into play. And we've made it about 20 laps into this green flag run. So when do you expect to start seeing guys thinking about coming to pit road for tires?
That's a good question at this point. The fuel looking to be maybe around 60. It is at a 2-stopper at the minimum. So lap 50 is the estimated opening of the pit window for many of these competitors to go 5,100 and then 34 laps to the finish around that mark. Keeping an eye on the battle for 6th meanwhile. And that can be where we see drivers try and go for undercuts, Greg, especially if you get stuck behind, say, a battle like this. If you end up getting stuck in the dirty air of the car in front and lose the draft of the cars behind in front of them, it might be a chance if you undercut them, you can pull away by a good couple seconds. The fall off already is 1.2 seconds in total, Greg.
And you're seeing it work right now as the battle going on between White and O'Hare. This is the battle for 6th, and both these drivers have gotten their way around McClure, who is right up there near the front at the initial. Ooh, a little bit of a bobble there perhaps from O'Hare, and that's going to allow Chris White to get back up there. Here we'll see a charge through 3 and 4. This is where you're going to want to make your move inside into the turn, but no, O'Hare fights back. But look at McClure sneaking his way back up there, Justin.
McClure starting to figure things out a little bit. His pace was about a 10th quicker than 2 cars in front. This time by the side draft slows them down to the 30.2s. O'Hare doing an impressive job defending on corner entry. It's just he's not looking comfortable for the exit in 1 and 2 yet.
And that right there is where Chris White has gotten his runs the last 2 times as he pulls up to the door. McClure has a shot to get down as Bill Ross Jr. had gotten to his door in the 1 and 2, but had to check up. And McClure's able to get down there, and that gives the aero help to Chris White that he needed to get the spot. Move Chris White up into the 6th position, and McClure comes with him to 7th, and now it's O'Hare's turn to be stuck on the freight train on the outside.
Already lost 3 positions in the span of about a lap. Make it nearly 4. That is Brett Johnson. A +2 from the drop of the green flag trying to make a move. That's also allowing potentially other drivers. You've just seen a couple of the other competitors such as Chad Malik and John Annenbacher to try and close up and get inside the draft of the other drivers. Because, yes, dirty air is a major hindrance in the corners, but the draft down the straightaways can be a difference of 0.3 at least a lap.
And we've seen it so many times, like we saw with Garber about 10 laps ago when he was closing in on this battle that was going between Ottenbacher and Malik. Sean Brightsman in the 46 has since gotten
trouble, turn 1, cars are sent sliding. Corey Walters among some of the drivers with contact. Jesse Gray is stopped on the surface and brings out the yellow flag for the 2nd time tonight. A couple drivers had just had the duck down the pit lane a couple moments before that, like Carpenter, but in the case of Gray, it looked like it was trouble because of a checkup in front of some other cars skating around on the entry. Yeah, Walters, it almost looked like cut up the track, Greg, and that's what cost the checkups.
Yeah, tough break there for that, or the field there, as Walters kind of coming up the track a little bit up in front of him. So definitely not the way we wanted this to go, and actually it looked like Carpenter was already on pit road when that happened, so he might get lucky here. But we're under caution for the 2nd time today, Justin.
Yeah, Carpenter, though, is now 2 laps down to the field, so he is in a bad situation, to say the very least. Again, caution flag is out, coming to 104 laps to go this upcoming time for these drivers. Dan West Jr. is the leader. Stabnell, Devin West, Travis Barnes, Scott Mann round out the top 5. And now, Ford Tires and Fuel look to be the name of the game, Greg.
And I will not be surprised if every single car on the track comes on the pit road right now. And they're all going to be following that white and blue 55 Dan West Jr. with Stabnow, Devin West rounding out the top 3 right now. Here they come, Justin.
Everyone coming down the pit lane as to be expected here. It is still a 2-stopper for Fuel, give or take, from this point. Some drivers may try and get it for 1, but the tires would be the massive question mark. And it's important that you get the good stop in these boxes here, because if you stop even too far back, you can lose a couple tenths. West Jr. too far forward. Bill Ross Jr. missed his box.
So Bill Ross Jr. is going to have to come back around. Dan West Jr. getting the service done on his car. Stabnow out. West is still going to get out there before the field. And looks like Chris White in the 83 is going to be able to gain the spot on pit road.
Good service for the 83 machine indeed. A 14.4, one of the fastest total pit stops in the field. West Jr., despite stopping forward in the stall, went up a 13.5 in his pit box. So no change for the top position overall in the field, or the top 3 in total. But that's the benefit of a first pit stall, Greg. It gives you such an advantage at the green cones to be able to come out in front.
And that's why you see so many drivers, when they get first choice, they take that pit stall that's at the far end of pit road. They say, hey, I want that first pit stall. I want that clean exit on the track.
That's what he got indeed at that moment. Coming to 103 laps to go for the lead lap cars. One thing to note in that, Frank Harris was the lucky dog driver in the 11 car. In 27th position, he was one of the drivers who had to check up at the first caution flag of the race. He'll join Bill Ross Jr. and the rest of the lap down cars of Gray, Bowser, Walters, Maines, Carpenter, Cheney, and Rogers down the pit lane. Your thoughts so far, though, Greg, and what has been an interesting race so far that has shown bottom's important, as well as track position in a lot of these cases.
We've seen drivers having kind of a hard time being able to complete a pass. They almost have it done, and then the guy gets the run back that he's trying to pass. We've seen it been able to work, but like you mentioned, track position, you're going to want to be as far up as you possibly can. So track position going to be very, very important moving forward. And now we've got a couple of restarts under our belt now as well. We'll see maybe a couple more drivers getting a little bit more comfortable on the restarts, knowing now kind of what they can expect in the early stages of a run now, as we got 4 fresh Goodyears on everybody. So I'm kind of curious to see if we start seeing some of the guys around 10th, 11th, 12th, the guys like Chris White, Ottenbacher, Malik, Brett Johnson, among others. I'm wondering if we're going to start seeing some guys back there maybe take a little bit of a chance here on this restart.
I'm curious too, especially with how aggressive they might take the bottom. Some of the biggest movers, by the way, in all of this too, Greg, are just behind the car drivers you mentioned. Scott Hutchinson, plus 21 on the field. Brian Barnes, a plus 11. He's in 15th. And don't forget about Seth Frazier, plus 12 in the top 18 in the running order. Drivers making their way across the stripe, as it appears Chris White going to go to the back of the field maybe for this upcoming situation as they get the one to go signal. It's going to be interesting because now Chris White forced to sacrifice a lot of positions, it appears here.
And that's a shame for him, because he was the one that we noted gained a spot on pit road. So after getting up into the 5th spot, now he's going to have to make his way up through the field. And Seth Frazier, we've already seen him having to do it, and he's making his way through. So add Chris White to that list of drivers who have to make their way through the field. We've seen drivers been able to do it so far. Like you mentioned, Scott Hutchinson up over 20 spots, so it's doable. Plenty of time still, 100 laps to go. Plenty of time for Chris White to get up there, but question is, how long will it take him?
As we've seen, it can take time. Drivers now being reminded, make sure they give space for this upcoming start. Dan West Jr. brings them to the green flag. Jeff Stabnell on the outside line of row 1. Barnes and West in row 2, McLaurin Man in row 3. Rounding up the top 8 positions, O'Hare and Johnson. West Jr. slowly bring them to the field in the effective wet solution Chevrolet Camaro. Green flag waves, West Jr. again good on the gas, off and away as he runs away from the field.
Devin West, however, was not good on the gas, and Jeff Stabnow has plenty of time to get down in front of the field. Expect to see him do it right there. Yes, but he kind of slid a little bit, and that allows Dan West Jr. to get a really good run through 1 and 2 as the side-by-side battle breaks out between West and Barnes for 3rd. Caution is out once again.
Caution to the back part of the field, on the back straightaway. They're still piling up. Ottenbacher, one of the drivers involved. Gray involved in a 2nd straight caution flag. Frank Harris, the recent lucky dog, involved in this one. And it all started really on the run on the exit of turn 2. Pardon me, that was Daniel Masters in a similar car that started all that triggering in the 03. Daryl Tidwick also amongst some of the other drivers with damage in that caution flag situation here as they come towards the caution flag. Again, all of it cracking up in turn 1 and 2. Jesse Gray getting the worst of it there, Greg.
Tough break for Jesse Gray, and it looks like he is done for the day as he has left the race, and he is frustrated as well. So tough break for Jesse Gray there. 2 straight cautions, and unfortunately his night is done with about 100 laps to go still.
Yeah, he's one of the first DNFs in total in the race. Dana Rogers is still on the racetrack as the last car running, 11 laps down, but not the way some of these drivers wanted this race to go. Another caution flag early on. So Dana Rogers, as mentioned, trying to come back from 11 laps down, was involved in some of the early incidences, including that checkup in the second most recent caution flag. Rogers stays out on the racetrack for the time being. So at this point, what do you do now if you're the race leaders? Because it's now a caution-precaution situation where track position is key. Do you risk staying out on multiple heat cycles now, Greg?
We might see some drivers near the back start coming in. I don't know about this caution, but maybe if we get another caution 5-10 laps into the next run, we might see some guys near the back start playing the pit strategy game and be like, hey, if this is going to continue happening, eventually they're going to wear their tires out and we'll have a shot to get up there, because by the time the next caution comes out, we'll have a few more laps on those tires. We may see some guys near the back start playing some strategy and start short pitting here soon.
One of those drivers who just pit, Casey Tillman, and nearly got a potential blue cone violation, trying to figure out the way to get around the apron. Also on the pit lane, Bill Ross Jr., Chris White, the lucky dog under the caution flag, Ricky Bowser in the 42 machine. So at the moment, as Bowser becomes the 27th driver on the lead lap, curious to see now, where do you go from here, Greg, in terms of the aggression, since there's been a lot of yellow flags with drivers trying to figure out the circuit.
Well, if I'm Dan West Jr. and the leader, I'm not changing a thing of what I've been doing, because I've led every single lap and I have had a pretty firm grip on the field. If I'm Dan West Jr., I'm not changing a thing. However, the ones I expect to maybe start making some changes in theirs are the guys around 4th, 5th. Travis Barnes, Scott Mann, Justin McClure, who's rallied back to being 6th after kind of struggling there in the early stages. So I'm anticipating we start seeing some more raciness out of the guys right around 5th, 6th, 7th in that spot here on this next restart.
Indeed, and remember though too, Greg, they do have a fast repair available. Eric Cheney among some of the drivers who have already had to use one after he had a crash down the front straightaway after hitting the wall in turns 3 and 4. It's now important for many of these drivers to keep it clean, because as mentioned before, you use a fast repair, you lose it for the rest of the race if you have to do it early on.
And with that fast repair, you want to keep, obviously your ultimate goal would be not have to use it at all, but once you use it, then you have to play it careful for the rest of the race, because now you're like, okay, I've used my mulligan. If something happens again, I don't have another one in the bank. So those drivers who use their fast repair already, yeah, they can afford to come back through the field, but they have to keep it in the back of their mind that this is it. I don't have another reset.
We'll see if they get the one-to-go signal, as the looks like Dan West Jr. has already, as we expected, chosen the bottom. He will do so as they get the one-to-go signal. He'll start alongside Stabnow in row 2. Devin West, Travis Barnes. Row 3 sees Mann and McClure, O'Hare Johnson, and Malik Breitzman round out the top 10 at the moment on the racetrack. Curious to see, again, who will be able to get a good start. West Jr.'s been very dominant with his control of the field, and his son has been caught sleeping every single time, Greg.
And Devin West is on the bottom now, so I was wondering, I was kind of keeping my eye on him on that last restart, if him being on the bottom for the first time would play a difference, but not to be there that last time, as he was once again caught sleeping. So you have to wonder if he's learning every single restart, if he's been watching his father and seeing what he does. When do you think he's going to be like, okay, I think I know what I'm doing now. This is my first start in the series. I'm fast. I know I'm fast, but I got to get these restarts down. Do you expect him to try anything different here?
I think you have to at least try something, right, to make sure you get a good start, or else you're going to end up burning up your tires alongside Travis Barnes like he did the last restart. Already, drivers testing out their gear ratios. A couple drivers ready to start in first gear. West Jr. is one of those drivers. A great boost down to first to second, up to third. Back underway from Texas.
Not as bad that time from Devin. However, the top two still able to get away. Stabnow and his father, Dan. As Stabnow again able to shut the door. But another great start for Dan West. But Devin did a much better job coming through the gears that time. As report, that's the power of the draft. As you see Scott Mann very quickly coming up on Barnes. Now he's got a decision to make, though, as Barnes goes to the inside of West. Who do you go with if you're Scott Mann? Do you stay on the inside with Barnes or the outside with West? Looks like he's going to stay with West on the outside that time, but Barnes was able to get the nose out front.
It looks like Mann, once again, though, going back to the bottom for turns 3 and 4. Still side by side for the third position. Barnes trying to avoid the apron. Mann with a huge boost of speed. Now he follows the McDonald's car on the bottom side. That's going to be trouble for Devin West again. Forced up into the top part of the groove. And Barnes slides up and takes away third position. So another completed pass. West again struggles up the start of the first couple laps. Finally able to get the defense on Mann.
Here comes the Caterpillar car behind this. Justin McClure was able to suck back up using the draft off of Scott Mann as he was kind of held up there trying to figure out which one he wanted to go with. That allowed McClure to get back into the mix, bringing Brett Johnson and Stephen O'Hare with him. No change up front as Stabnow and Dan West Jr. continue to pace the field up front, but Travis Barnes, he is going to throw his name into the hat here very quickly because he is closing in for second on that 24 of Stabnow. Barnes kind of way up to the wall there as he was kind of low off exit, but he got a huge run to the outside there through the tri-oval as Stabnow able to pull up now on the 55 of Dan West Jr. Top 5 single file, about evenly spaced, but it's a question now of who's going to make the first move. Looks like Travis Barnes wants to make that move, but he might have to play defense for a minute because here comes Devin West back into the picture.
Now all the drivers staying single file for the time being. Travis Barnes, though, amongst the drivers who were 3/10 quicker than Dan West Jr. last time by. This time the difference only about a tenth. Barnes trying to take a different approach to 1 and 2. Not going to work, though. Loses 2 car lengths. While Devin West now tries to make the move. Side by side now for the race lead. Stabnow dives to the inside. Dan West Jr. sacrifices the bottom. Trying to defend in a side-by-side battle as Travis Barnes makes it a 3-car fight for this lead.
Barnes gets right up on the bumper of Stabnow. I think Stabnow had it at the line. He clears Dan West and brings Travis Barnes with him. New race leader, Jeff Stabnow, leading at Texas. What a run by Dan West Jr., though, on the outside. I thought for sure Barnes had him clear. West with a huge run, able to get second back and clear Travis Barnes down the backstretch. His son Devin not quite able to get the run there just yet, but it's Jeff Stabnow leading the way at Texas as he is clear now, but here comes West Jr. back. Dan West Jr. crossover, he almost got in the grass a little bit. Taking a peek now to the high side. Travis Barnes closing back in now. Battle breaking out again for the second as West has to check up, and that allows Barnes to get a run down the backstretch. Barnes almost clear, got him clear, he's got to get up there now. He does, and here comes Devin West to the inside of his father.
Dan West Jr. lost the bottom off the exit of turn 2, and now the freight train begins again. Devin West able to try and move up to third, tries to go for the lane arc, sends his dad up the racetrack. I don't know if his dad's going to be happy about that late arc, but Dan West Jr. still able to hold on to fourth. He tries to settle back in as they continue to fight like crazy for second.
Looks like he's got it settled. Here comes Brett Johnson closing in now on the back of Justin McClure, bringing Stephen O'Hare with him. These 7, it looks like they broke away as it's single file now, settling down for now. Travis Barnes, he sniffs the race lead, and I've seen it in the Northwest Tour in super late model racing When Travis Barnes has a shot at the lead, he does not hesitate. He goes for it. But now he's got to play defense once again as Devin West is making the move to the inside. His father right behind him. Here comes Scott Mann with a big run to the inside. No, backs out of it into turn number 3. Stabnow with a big lead through 3 and 4 that time. But Barnes able to pull up once again on the bumper down the tri-oval. We'll see what happens in the turn 1.
All the drivers try and cycle in. West Jr. is committed to try and make the middle line work. It's not going to stick too well. Loses about a car length once again. And what a beautiful shot of these drivers making their way down that long back straightaway. These drivers have been some of the best all night. It's an 8-car train in the race lead for those just tuning in. Coming 85 laps to go. Travis Barnes wants to lead it. To the inside goes Barnes in the McDonald's machine. Stabnow way up the track outside the rubber. Travis Barnes takes the lead for the first time.
The McDonald's curse. Travis Barnes taking that and throwing it out the window right now. He wants this win tonight at Texas. Has the lead over Stabnow. Devin West back up into the top 2 for the first time since the initial start. This is where he started, so it takes Devin a couple laps to get going, but once he does, we're seeing that the 15 is just as strong as his father. Travis Barnes leading the lap. Devin West in second, and here comes his father Dan to the inside to Stabnow. And just like that, Stabnow was leading the freight train just 5 minutes ago around Dan West Jr. Now he falls victim. He's back to 4th, trying to get back on the 55. No, the side draft doesn't work. Stabnow falls back in line in 4th before Mann can get back there. New leader, Travis Barnes leading at Texas.
Barnes up by just about 2, making near 3/10 of a second at the moment. Stabnow finally able to get to the bottom after going up above the rubber the past 2 laps. And you have to be wondering what's going through Jeff's mind here. Lap traffic ahead. It's a modified machine. That is one of the silver and bluish Ford Mustangs. Allowing him on by that time appeared to be the 03 machine of Daniel Masters nearly that time. Then it had some trouble there. That broke up the pack a little bit, Greg, all of a sudden, as now these drivers try and get back into a rhythm.
Just a little, the final 2 cars there at the end, the 7 of Brett Johnson and the 41 of O'Hare. They swapped positions on me. O'Hare was able to get around Johnson there. Caution is out, Justin.
Caution is out. It's one of the drivers in 25th position. The 78 of Dan Stuzzi is involved in this one to bring out another yellow flag in this race. He was involved with Corey Walters, who went up and over in the Castro machine.
That is a hard hit. Wow, who is that who just got underneath the 9 of Walters?
And get the quiet angle here. We'll try and see if we can get in our luck here again. Walters involved in this one. Go a little bit further back to see, because he got hit hard. And there's a lot of speed that was happening in that trial over there for Corey Walters to try and get through that situation. He was side by side with Stuzzi. That was what caused that, by the way, after Stuzzi hit the outside wall off of 4. And Stuzzi basically had him off as a ramp for Walters off his front nose.
And tough break there for those drivers. Back deep in the field, bringing out the caution on lap 53, I believe, was when the caution came out. And obviously going for a ride was Walters, but Justin, here comes the field down pit road.
Already a good cushion for Travis Barnes on the pit stop entry. And now it's a one-stopper from here, Greg, if they go green, because the fuel, about 60 laps or so in these mile-and-a-half circuits this season for these Cup cars. And it looks like everyone expecting to take 4 tires and fuel as they get in the boxes.
Oh, the 41 had to back up there that time, and it looks like the 83 will as well. So a couple of drivers having to back up after overshooting the stall. Barnes first one out, and it looks like he is going to have no problem getting off of pit road first. And looks like the only change is going to be McClure able to break into the top 5 over Scott Mann. So once again, McClure able to gain a spot on pit road.
Yeah, McClure with a pit stop about 1 second quicker than Scott Mann during that cycle. So back under the caution flag, coming to 79 laps to go as they continue to race around this track and cycle things forward here. As they work behind the pace car, we'll take a step aside and take a word from one of our sponsors. You're watching the Northwest Cup Series live from the virtual Texas Motor Speedway in beautiful Fort Worth, Texas.
We're based out of West Monroe, Louisiana. We do custom T-shirts, racing. We'll do any shirt. We'll do schools, churches, fundraisers. We do a ton of event shirts, as you can see on our board here, all around our banner. Personalized. I mean, we'll do anything. It doesn't matter to us. We got the custom rugs. We use all the, top quality shirts, inks and everything. Hoodies, hats. We do embroidered hats, embroidered shirts. You can call us for anything. We do offer the bag and fold, to where you can receive them and they're already labeled and tagged and bagged, ready to give out to your customers. So you just call us and just tell us, hey, this is what we're looking at doing, and if we're going to put the car on there, it is 125 quantity minimum. If it's without the car, it's 60 quantity minimum. That's strictly on the racing stuff. If it's a business or something, if you race on Texas shirts, it's a little bit differently. You can call us. It just depends on your quantity and ink colors. Everything is hand drawn. I mean, everything. We don't Photoshop anything onto a shirt or anything like that. Everything that we go through, everything is drawn, and which is the reason for the art fees. We do have several graphic artists that draw for us, and they're really good. So what we do is on any package that you do, we can mix and match. We can do any colors. You can do purple, red, blue, green, and do the rest black. It doesn't matter to us. With your design on there, we can do hoodies. We can do hoodies, long sleeve shirts, t-shirts, tank tops. It doesn't matter. I mean, it's almost limitless what you can do, and you can put all that together in that package to make that minimum requirements. They can call us 318-278-7191, or they can email us at bulletprooftees@yahoo.com, or they can go to the website bulletprooftees.com.
Welcome back, everyone, to Texas Motor Speedway, as Daryl Tidwick just gave the leaders a fright. He just spun around, taking the wave around in front of the pack and destroyed his front clip by putting in a money shift. The leaders, though, are okay. That's the bright side. Justin Pritzel onside, Greg Rentz, Charles Wooden in the director's seat tonight as Barnes and Devin West get ready to bring us to the green flag here. Greg, your quick thoughts in this race so far approaching the halfway.
Now, if you're the race leaders, you have to kind of get what just happened with Tidrick out of your head, because all of a sudden you were just kind of cruising, hey, just getting ready for a restart. And now you had to dodge a wreck on the 1 to green. So now you got to hurry up and get that out of your head before this happens, because if that's rattled in your head, that could lead to disaster on this initial start.
We'll see how these drivers go. Remember, there's been different gears being used. Travis Barnes wanting to use second gear. Pierce Dan West Jr. is still in first gear. His son, Devin West, is in second. Bit of wheel spin on the top line as Travis Barnes brings them back to the green flag. But look how good a jump you get if you start in first in these mile-and-a-half circuits with this aero package here, Greg. Dan West Jr. quickly gets to second.
No surprise that Dan West Jr., who had the best restarts all day thus far, was able to get around Devin. We saw every single time the green flag fell, that 55 was the best car on the initial restart, but he was in third, so I was kind of curious how that was going to go. Look at Scott Mann in the 90 getting up right back around the 10 of Justin McClure for the 4th spot there, a little bit behind us as West pulling back up to the bumper. He's saying, so Travis, you took the lead from me, and Jeff, now it's my turn to chase you back down, and he's doing exactly that.
Now let's see if he can be successful in the chase down as they continue to work their way through 3 and 4. Dan West Jr., though, sliding a little bit in the dirty air. That can happen with these cars. Barnes, though, has been close to the safer barrier every time off turn 4 with how much speed he's been able to carry off the corners compared to some of these air cars.
He's leading the way, and Justin, I didn't catch it at first, one of the guys who was right up there in the mix with these guys, Jeff Stabnow, is back in the 23rd position right now. Something must have happened on pit road, and we must not have caught it at first, because Jeff Stabnow, leader for a while, was up in the top 5 all day, back outside the top 20 right now. He's in the 23rd position. Wondering if maybe a speeding on pit road penalty perhaps, or maybe something happened on the pit stop with the 24 car, but one of the top cars and a leader of this race for a while outside the top 20 right now.
Yeah, losing lots of valuable track position because, yes, can confirm he had to let everybody by down the back straightaway during the caution flag, and now he gets to fight with Bill Ross Jr. and John Ottenbacher outside the top 20. Keep in mind that 89 machine, very beat up right now. That car going to be having some rough downforce with that back spoiler like that.
Stabnow making the outside lane work, trying to, at least, as the 03 of Daniel Masters gets a run there on the inside. And unfortunately, if you're Stabnow, now you're kind of stuck, mired back in traffic. Now you have a lot less time to work with than, say, Seth Frazier or Chris White have had over the course of this race when they've had to work their way through. Stabnow suddenly has a lot less time. So if you're Stabnow, you can't really show as much patience as Frazier and White were able to, because now a lot less time to work with. We're right around the halfway mark, Justin, and Stabnow, Meyer back outside the top 20, but they're 3 wide in front of him. Look out.
Oh,
Stabnow has to decide who he's going to go with there.
Bill Ross Jr. forced to back out of it hard. Gary Nichols tried to take it in the middle underneath John Ottenbacher. And part of that was because Bruce Wee Weaver, you might have noticed, did scrape the wall in front of them in 19th position. And now everyone gets to breathe. There's still 70 laps to go this upcoming time by as everyone tries to gain up for a chance of the top 20 at the moment. The leaders, though, still scrapping as this is going on. O'Hare just flipping spots with Scott Mann and bumping his way to the bottom in turn 1, Man Dordum.
Scott Mann is the man on the mission right now, no pun intended. But he is making his way through. O'Hare trying to get back up there. Here comes Mann on the outside. O'Hare is going to get him in turn 3, and almost, I thought he was going to save it. And wow, he comes to a dead stop there up in turn number 3 and 4 on his side, and that is not the way he wanted that one to go.
They did make door-to-door contact twice in the quad oval before this caution flag. I don't know what to say on that one. I wonder if that was premeditated from that door-to-door contact in the front, down the front stretch, Greg.
You have to wonder, because that looked to me like it could have been, could not have been. Not going to make any assumptions there, but that's definitely a tough call, and I'm sure that one's going to have to go to review.
Yeah, absolutely. And Mann with significant damage forced to take the tow truck under the caution flag here. As now they approach 68 to go. And now it gets interesting a little bit. We're still outside the fuel window, but this is where split decisions may come in. And a perfect example. Barnes goes in. West Jr. stays out with his son.
The Wests were the only ones that stayed out. Seth Frazier, I saw him. By the way, shout out Seth Frazier up into the top 10 after starting 30th. He was kind of indecisive there. He was kind of waiting to see what happened. I saw him swerve on the pit road, swerve back, and then back in again. So Frazier had kind of going with where everybody else was going there. And Frazier making the move. So now we're going to start seeing that strategy that we talked about earlier with the short pit.
Good race off pit road. The first drivers off the lane are a couple drivers we haven't talked much about. Masters, who I believe missed his pit box, but Sean Breitzman, who took 2 tires here, Greg. Your thoughts on that call?
I've been waiting to see if somebody would try that on a short green flag run like we had. Didn't have too many tires or too many laps on these tires. So I was wondering if someone was going to take 2, and who better to do it than one of the hottest drivers in the Northwest right now, Sean Breitzman. He's kind of been mired back mid-pack right around 10th all day, so he's like, hey, why not? I'll give it a shot. A couple of guys stayed out, so I have an advantage over them with the 2 right sides. And we know by talking to drivers before the race that they were concerned about the right front, so Breitzman probably saying, hey, I've got a fresh right front, and I can make some moves and see if I can catch another caution and we might make this work. So not surprised to see Sean Brightsman be the one to try the 2-tire stop.
Taking a look on board as the only 2 drivers who stayed out that entire pit cycle here were the Wests. So this is going to get interesting. They only have a few laps on the tires, but the drivers on fresh tires, if they get a long run, are going to potentially eat the Wests up potentially on this stretch. And, mind you, none of these cars can still make it on fuel.
I think if you're the Wests, you're hoping that we have the same situation that we saw at the start of the race. A quick caution here, a quick caution there, and try to get everybody back on the same pit cycle, because right now you're the only 2. I think they did that thinking a couple more drivers were going to stay out and try to gain track position, and or a couple more drivers take only 2 tires. I think the Wests are in big trouble if this run goes more than 5, 6, even 7 laps.
Very intrigued to see what happens here. These drivers should be getting the one-to-go signal this upcoming time by. Again, coming to 66 laps to go, just past the halfway point here on LSR TV for the Northwest Cup Series. The 4th race of the season. The top 10 is as follows. West Jr. along with West, the father and son, 1 and 2. Sean Brightsman on 2 tires in 3rd. Travis Barnes in 4th. Justin McClure in 5th. Brett Johnson 6th. Roy Grande in 7th. Casey Garber up to the 8th position, started in 17th. Seth Frazier, the lowest driver in qualifying, up to 9th on the board. Chad Malik, he's been quietly peeking his way inside the top 10 all race. He's back in the top 10 for this upcoming start. So at this point, for the second half of this race, who else are you keeping an eye on with how this race has flowed?
I've been kind of keeping my eye on Justin McClure, who we saw him struggling a little bit, but once he got this track figured out, he's really been pretty solid. He's been one of the more consistent drivers in the field, Justin. He's up in 5th right now for this restart. I'm keeping my eye on that number 10 Caterpillar car because, like I mentioned earlier, once he got it settled down, he has been very, very strong. I'm also kind of keeping my eyes on a couple of the guys playing strategy, especially Brightsman, the Wests. Casey Garber's up in 9th after kind of slowly making his way through the field as well. So trying to keep my eye on these guys who have been slowly and methodically making their way through the field. Your Garbers, your Fraziers, your Maliks, who have been in and out of the top 10 all day. These are the guys I'm kind of watching right now, the guys who are saving it right now.
Yeah, some of those drivers might be contenders the way this is going by the end of the race. By the way, the lights are on top of the pace car again because there was a delayed yellow because a couple drivers tried to let by some of the others for wave around, stopped on the racetrack. That means they will stay double file for at least an hour lap before they get the green flag. But the way this has trended tonight, 28 total drivers are on the lead lap at the moment. In total, there are still 33 cars running on track. Shockingly, just 2 DNFs, despite how this race has flowed so far for a couple drivers in terms of luck.
Yeah, Jesse Gray, who got caught up in back-to-back cautions earlier in this one, and then Corey Walters, who we saw go for the wild ride through the tri-oval. Those are the only 2 drivers who have withdrawn from the event. So still a very, very full field, 36 cars still on the racetrack right now, Justin, as we're going to try this again. But so far, I got to say, all in all, pretty clean race, aside from the couple of incidents we saw at the start of the race. Once things got settled down, we've been able to even get some runs in. This has been a pretty fun race.
Been pretty fun, especially for the ones who have been up inside the lead group, whether it's been 5 cars or 8 cars, since we've seen many times. Gonna be an interesting upcoming start. Again, remember, West Jr. has been really solid starting in first gear, and it's not easy to do so with this car, too, because you have half a second to get yourself into second gear. If you miss that money point to shift up, you're either going to stall the car, get stuck in neutral, or lose all the speed you need on the first gear start.
See what happens here. Dan West has been the strongest driver on restarts. However, he's got more laps on the tires than the cars behind him. The only one that's on the same amount of laps is his son, Devin, to the outside. We're green flag racing once again, Justin.
Good start again from Dan West Jr. as he's done all race. His son, Devin West, forced to fight off a couple cars. Gives the squeeze to Barnes. Barnes nearly forced up into the wall with McDonald's machine. Now Brightsman on the 2 tires, able to get the good run. Everybody trying to find a hole to get to the bottom. The top 5 had a good launch. They're 3 wide, 6 on back.
Wild racing here at Texas. The big pack, and here you see Seth Frazier making a move in the 32 car. He has decided it's go time as he's to the inside now of, I believe, the 4 of Brian Barnes. Yes, Seth Frazier going to try to get the lead in this pack right now. Frazier qualified in the 30th spot, hit the wall in the second lap, didn't get a second lap, only got 1 lap of qualifying. And now Frazier has worked his way well inside the top 10 now. He's bringing the 94 of Casey Garber with him. Frazier in the 6th, trying to get up here into the top 5 now if he can catch up to this top group.
And Frazier's pace has been really impressive throughout this night so far. His fastest lap amongst the top 5 in the entire race, especially for the ones in the lead group. Brett Johnson, though, had a nightmare start in comparison's sake. He was one of the top starters on that restart. He's all the way back in 15th and still getting positions pride from underneath him.
One guy who is not getting positions pride from him because he has gotten around one of the West and is going for the other one is Sean Brightsman in the 46, going after Dan West Jr. in the 55. Got around Devin West through the tri-oval that last time by. Got a good run on Dan West Jr. in the lead. Wasn't able to make it work this time, but that purple 46 car is making his move on the 55 of Dan West Jr. right now. Brightsman, remember, he's on 2 tires. It looks like he's got 4 fresh ones out there, not 2. I think that 2-tire strategy might be working right now for the 46.
I'm curious to see how it played on the long run here, Greg, but you're right. The 2 tires are definitely having much more grip at this point, by about a 10th or so in the corners at the moment, even with just a couple laps difference on them. The rest of the drivers on fresher tires are starting to reel them in too. Travis Barnes still in 4th. Justin McClure also has Frazier within the draft of those cars now too, as Dan West Jr. goes for the block this time for the lead.
West down on the bottom. Brightsman's going to get the bottom off of turn number 2 as West, the tires beginning to slip, and he slid up the track a little bit. That's going to open the door for the reigning Truck Series champion to get a huge run off of into turn number 3. Sean Brightsman to the lead, but don't look now. Behind him, Seth Frazier to the inside of McClure for 5th.
Brightsman on the 2 tires up at the point. You see in the backdrop, though, Frazier able to give the late arc to McClure to force the 10 up the track to his non-happy place. But now it becomes the question, though, how long does it take for that purple LSR TV machine to hold on, especially since every other car in this row outside of the West have fresh tires?
If you're Sean Brightsman, you're hoping that the West can hang on for as long as humanly possible in 2nd and 3rd right now, because with you being on 2 tires, that is eventually going to wear out quicker than the 4 tires that Travis Barnes and company are on right now, because of obviously the fact that while it was only 7-8 laps difference, that's going to catch up with you real quick. Not as quick as it would no tires, but I'm honestly surprised right now Dan West Jr. able to get a run back at Travis Barnes, or Sean Brightsman rather. Travis Barnes is behind this battle, but West Jr. on no tires, Brightsman on 2 tires, Barnes on 4 tires, getting a run inside of Devin, but Dan West Jr. making the no tires work for the time being, but possibly not for long, as here comes Seth Frazier and Casey Garber up there as well.
The 2 have been working together, and Devin West making it tight. Frazier sends it, and Devin West forced to check up. Behind them, McClure hits the apron. And the lead pack shrinks as Dan West Jr. also gets a bad run off 4. Here's Travis Barnes for 2nd spot, and here come the 4 tires making their way to the front.
Seen this battle a time or 2 in my time with the Northwest Tour. Travis Barnes and Seth Frazier, 2 of the guys who are in the mix on a weekly basis. They're no stranger to racing against each other in big situations, and here we see it again on LSR TV. Travis Barnes and Seth Frazier now 2nd and 3rd, and Justin, the 4 tires now are licking their chops because they know they've got a little bit of a tire wear advantage over Brightsman. Not as much as they did on Dan and Devin West, but they know if they can just settle down and get together. Do you think they're going to try to draft their way up to the 46 and kind of stay single file right now? Oh,
I think
nope.
no.
Guess not.
Barnes is just going to let by Seth Frazier. Casey Garber also falls through. So now Frazier and Garber, it looks like, are going to do what you just suggested. Try and draft their way up to the front. Sean Brightsman may have some comfort right now in the 2 tires, which can happen with the Cup cars, Greg. But here's the problem with this package. It's hard to break away unless you can break the toe of the draft. Brightsman still has not done that quite yet.
He's close to it, but I think he needed a side-by-side battle between Barnes and West when they were battling for second for just a little bit longer to be able to stretch it a little bit more. Didn't get it, and then with luck having it, now he's got one of the faster cars in the field. Seth Frazier started 30th up to second. Casey Garber started 17th. He's up to third. We saw him fast in practice. Qualifying didn't go either of the way that those 2 wanted it. But we know that they're fast cars, and what a run Casey Garber got on Seth Frazier there. Had to kind of check up a little bit because Frazier was able to shut the door long before, and Barnes kind of riding there in the McDonald's car in fourth, just watching and waiting in case something happens. And I think Barnes, he might have just wanted, hey, I just want to ride behind you guys and see if I can pull the draft off you guys to try to catch up to Brightsman as he pulls back up on the 94 of Garber. 3-car train down the backstretch, second through fourth.
Here's the problem, though. Here they're losing a 10th a lap right now to Brightsman, and I think Brightsman might have found the right amount of difference between the difference in the 2 tires with how many laps they turn to be able to have it loose enough for the corner entry at the moment. Couple drivers off the track. Ottenbacher with some trouble in 22nd. He's back going on the circuit, but had a bit of a scuffle where he ended up having to go to the grass after a massive check with Masters & Co. Those cars able to still keep going, though, here down the straightaway. He's after some trouble there. That could have been much worse, Greg.
Could have been a lot worse, and we're lucky to still be green. And Ottenbacher, he's had kind of a rough go the last few laps, so definitely not the night that John Ottenbacher wanted in that green 89 car.
Especially with some of the hits and licks that car has taken so far in this race. So coming towards 48, make it now coming to 47 next time by. Brightsman currently up by 1.2 seconds. He is blistering quick, and this is the advantage of clean air. He's losing that advantage as the caution is out. Trouble in the quad oval. Couple cars in the grass. A blown engine for the 71 of Eric Cheney.
And remember, Cheney had already used his fast repair, so Cheney's night will unfortunately most likely be brought to an end. Not sure what happened, Justin, but tough break for the 71.
As you've seen there, Scott Hutchinson amongst some of the drivers with trouble on the LSR TV replay. It happened really, though, a couple seconds prior to that where Weaver pinballed off the wall. And that's been a common theme tonight, Greg. Drivers getting tied off the floor and mowing down that safer barrier.
We've seen it quite a few times from various drivers, and even up in the top 5 we've seen it happen. And fortunately, those drivers have been able to keep it going. But the longer a run goes and the more and more these tires go away, we start seeing that more and more drivers kind of getting up close and flirting with that wall. So now, Justin, a green flag run that lasted 10, 15, 20 laps. Can't remember the exact number. Do you think anyone else is going to try the 2-tire strategy that Sean Brightsman just made work, or do you think it's been too long?
I think it's been too long based on what we've seen. Maybe 10 laps on a 1.5-mile circuit, Greg. And as we expected, everybody coming down the pit lane. However, knowing some of the trends, Greg, of some of these drivers, I wouldn't be surprised if someone thought of it. Because I've seen 2 tires that Las Vegas tried. It didn't work out on the iRacing service. They might try it tonight.
I think it's going to have to be, if anyone does, it's going to be someone around 15th or so that was coming in. I think someone deep in the field is going to be willing to take that gamble. If you're in the top 10, I don't think you can afford to take a gamble like that.
And a couple drivers making their way off the pit lane. Right now, Scott Mann joined them as the lap car, and Casey Tillman missed the pit box. Just about everybody else took 4. However, one thing to note, one driver didn't even duck down at all, make it 2. O'Hare and Bowser did not come to the pit lane.
I wonder if that was just to try to stay out and lead a lap, because if you're that far back and all the fast guys are on fresh tires, if you stay out, you're a sitting duck on the restart. So I wonder if that was just to try to lead a lap.
I think so too. That has to be the call, because you make it from fuel from here, Greg.
Yes, absolutely. So we'll see if these 2 drivers that stayed out do indeed duck down. I would not be surprised at all if they do or not, or if they do duck down.
Well, Ricky was in the lower part of the field before some of the incidents. He's already making his way down the pit lane, and oh boy, O'Hare's trying something crazy here. He is not ducking down to the pit lane. I don't know about this call here. Because he didn't duck down, he'll get a pit road close signal right about now in the 2 laps to go signal. If he comes down to the pit lane, he'll have to serve a penalty.
Justin, this restart is going to be chaos going into turn number 1 now. And honestly, we'll see what lane he chooses, but wow. I am not sure about this call by Stephen O'Hare.
Neither do I. Neither do I. And his car's beat up too from some of the prior incidents on the front nose.
So not only is he on old tires as opposed to everyone else, who I believe everybody took 4 tires.
Yes.
Now we have a driver up front on old tires with damage on the front end of a very aero-sensitive race car. This could get very, very hairy going into this first turn.
I think it absolutely might get hairy here, coming to 44 laps to go for these drivers. The green coming at the 43 to go mark. And we're approaching the double-digit point in terms of caution flags. Already a decent chunk of caution laps in this race tonight here on LSR TV. By the way, you asked the question of 2 tires. The drivers that did take that were Casey Tillman and Roy Grande. They're in 22nd and 24th. We'll see how that works out for them in the back part of the field, as they had to come down a different cycle. But O'Hare ready to bring them to the 1 to go signal behind the iRacing official pace car and his radiator machine. Chooses the bottom, Brightsman up on the top, Frazier starts in 3rd, does have a bit of back-end damage from some of the passes. Travis Barnes is in 4th, McClure's back on the bottom in 5th, Dan West Jr. in one of his steepest starts tonight in 6th. Casey Garber looks to charge his way up to the front from 7. Brian Barnes in the NASCAR Hall of Fame machine rounds out the top 8. Chris White and Chad Malik round out the top 10. Your thoughts if you're a driver starting behind O'Hare on multiple lap-old tires?
I was just getting ready to ask you the same question. If you're Seth Frazier in that 32 car starting behind the 41, what's going through your head? I will not be surprised if Seth Frazier tries to get down inside of him as quick as possible. I would advise against it on the first turn, but don't be surprised if we see Frazier try to go 3 wide on the initial start just to try to get around that 41 car.
The amount of laps on this stint in total on those Goodyear tires, 22 laps including pace laps for O'Hare. Fresh tires for everyone else around them coming to the start on lap number 91 to 92. O'Hare running them nice and slow. He's electing to start in 2nd gear. Brightsman appears to be testing out the different gears. O'Hare brings them slowly to the green flag. Back underway we are.
And that could have been the best thing possible for Frazier with Barnes. It looked like he might have missed a shift or something, because he's able to get a run to the outside. And O'Hare is able to get a nose in front of Brightsman. But here comes Frazier. Watch for the move to the inside right there.
Oh.
There it is.
Travis Barnes warned for a lane change. The wrecking behind. West Jr. involved. Caution flag is out. Garber is in it. Also in it is Steve Paulison. And that might have been coming with what we've seen. We just weren't expecting it from that point in the field. And it just looked like West Jr. got loose there, Greg.
Yeah, just a little bit of a bobble, and unfortunately, right when it finally snapped around, Brian Barnes was up there, and getting the worst of it was Casey Garber, and that is a shame for Garber because he was very quietly putting together a very solid run. Started 17th, had gotten up as high as 3rd, kind of got shuffled back on pit road a little bit, and all of a sudden, now his night has just gone really bad in a hurry.
And it was nuts for that race late, mind you, as that caution flag came out. I'm surprised Frazier went all the way to the apron. Yes, we are in this package, drivers will block to the white line. I don't think I've seen someone go down to the blue safer barrier yet here at Texas like that.
That was definitely wild, and I thought we were going to see Frazier go to the bottom. I definitely was not expecting O'Hare to throw a block like that. Now, Justin, if you're O'Hare, do you pit now, or do you say, well I've kind of committed myself to this?
Well, we got our answer. O'Hare just ducked down to the pit lane, so I think he just realized, not a good call. And because of the drivers involved in the caution flag, he's not going to lose a lot of track position. There's only about 10 or so who are staying out. The rest of the field does come down to the pit lane for damage repair.
So we'll see what happens with these guys, because now that crazy restart that we just saw goes out the window. Drivers on pit road getting damage repair. Wonder how many of them had already used their fast repair, if any.
Yeah, that's a major question mark. West Jr., I think, might have definitely banked one at this point. Scott Hutchinson, by the way, is the lucky dog, as the drivers who did not take a fast repair in that situation, Garber, no front clip. Paulson did use one. Devin West used one. Ryan Maines used one. West Jr. did use one. Nichols did not. O'Hare did. Malik did. Frank Harris did not. Roy Grande did not as well, for the drivers catching up to the pace car. Interesting race, to say the very least, and interesting tidbit here, Greg. The two drivers that are at the front did not put in any practice laps.
So definitely interesting, as Brightsman and Frazier, they both joined the session right around qualifying, and now they sit top 2. And look who's up in the 5th position, Justin. Chris White, who got shuffled back on pit road, I believe, after a penalty early in the race. He's back up in the top 5 after dodging some incidents.
Yeah, and he's got a very clean race car in that AMSOIL sponsored machine. That V-Twin oil change kit logo underneath the AMSOIL logos as well. And they were just warned, by the way, this might have been a saving grace for Travis Barnes, because they had it was talked about where you're not allowed to change lanes on a restart. Barnes was in the gray area for that prior to the caution flag. Then calamity broke loose. As that happened, he, remember, was starting the outside line and then tried to squeeze McClure into the middle line.
Barnes definitely getting lucky on that one. And Frazier must have been very happy to see that happen, because that opened up the door on the outside for him to try to get around O'Hare, albeit he wound up taking the extreme inside, about as low as you can go, to try to make the move. So a lot of drivers probably thinking their lucky stars that restart went the way it did. But Justin, as I'm looking at the top 10 and 11 right now, noticing a trend. We talked about drivers making their way through the field. Look at some of the pluses that have made their way through the field. Sean Brightsman started 16th, leading. Seth Frazier started 30th, second. Carl Burke started 22nd. He's in 6th. Brett Johnson up 5 spots from 12th to 7th. John Ottenbacher back in the top 10 after a struggle. Daryl Tidrick 24th to 9th. Ricky Bosner 29th to 10th. Justin, the field has really been shuffled a lot this last few laps, and we're seeing some new faces up in the top 10.
That brings up that makes it important coming to the 1-to-go signal of 2, where if you avoid incidents, you can gain those positions. A lot of those drivers have been the best at doing so tonight, in my opinion, Greg.
Yeah, Ottenbacher has had his incidents with that, but it seems like it worked out there, being able to dodge that one. Just noticed some damage on the back of Brett Johnson in the 7, perhaps on the right rear of his car from an earlier incident. One guy I'm going to try to keep my eye on for this one is the 45 of Daryl Tidrick. Remember, we had that incident with him taking the wave around when he lost it under the caution, he's back up in the top 10. You know he wants to try to rally back and prove to himself that that was just a fluke. He's up in the top 10 right now, so I'm keeping my eye on that 45 car here to see what he can do on this restart.
Keep in mind, though, that Tidrick does have a significant amount of damage to his front nose that Toyota Camry crushed in along the logos. The driver's ready to get back under the green flag, coming to 38 laps to go. Sean Brightsman starting alongside Seth Frazier. Brightsman looking to start in first gear. Frazier looking to start, it appears, in second. Pace car is off. Frazier tries to anticipate. Brightsman launches. Green flag's back out. We're racing again from Texas.
What a start by Sean Brightsman. That looked very similar to the restarts and initial start that we saw out of Dan West Jr. earlier in the race. And Frazier is going to have to give up the second spot to McClure and possibly the third spot to Barnes. Yes, Barnes is able to clear Frazier off of turn number 2. Frazier slides back in fourth. Now we're going to try to see him draft his way back up, sticking on the bumper of Barnes for now. Here comes Justin McClure with a big run through 3 and 4. Look out, that 10 car had a huge run there through 3 and 4. He's going to try to make it work on the outside. He might have him going into turn 1 here.
McClure trying to get it to work, forced to burp the throttle hard as he slides up the track. Here comes the McDonald's car of Travis Barnes, side by side for second. Has the preferred line for turns 3 and 4 again. And again, McClure loses time. Barnes clipped the apron. He'll also lose time to the 46.
And that brings Frazier with him in the 3 car. Oh, McClure and Frazier almost get together. I think you could barely fit a piece of paper between those 2 cars. Frazier bobbled a little bit going into the tri-oval, but McClure had a big bobble coming out of the tri-oval. That allows Barnes to break away from the 2 of them and get a run now at Brightsman. Chris White kind of hanging out, best seat in the house for this one. Besides us here in the broadcast booth, that 83 car kind of just watching and waiting to see what happens, but Frazier is able to clear McClure for now. Battle breaking out as Travis Barnes is going inside, outside, any lane he can get to try to get around Sean Brightsman now. That McDonald's car is flying right now.
He's been one of the fastest cars in the field. Last time by was 2/10 quicker nearly compared to Brightsman. As they scrap both for third, this is going to help Barnes and Co. run away in the top 2 spots. Barnes trying to ramp it off 4, can't close in. McClure trying to get the inside mark underneath Frazier. Able to dive it in hard with the flat corner entry. Will he be able to make the line stick? Yes, it appears so. Frazier going for the switchback though.
Frazier trying to get the move. Don't look now. Here comes Chris White in the 83. He wants a piece of this battle for the final podium spot. Has to back out of it that time by. Frazier taking a little bit of a lower entry, but shoots up higher through the tri-oval than McClure. Now coming back and forth to the inside once again. Here comes Frazier trying to get a run as Barnes puts pressure again on Brightsman. Chris White getting a run, though, on Seth Frazier as McClure breaks away. Racing all over the top 5 here, Justin. Here comes Chris White to the inside of Frazier.
Brightsman trying to play defense for the race lead, really going for flat entries up at the front of the field. Behind them, Chris White has gotten up to 4th position. So a lot of scrapping as Frazier still trying to deal with White in the backdrop. But I think Brightsman knows if he leaves the bottom opener, gives a chance for that McDonald's machine to get a run, he might lose the lead. Barnes this time elects to bump draft him a little bit down the straight.
Barnes trying to make the move. Brightsman, that bump draft shot Brightsman up a little bit as Barnes wasn't able to. Caution is out.
And this could be a big one with the caution flag in turn 4. And there was a car stopped on the top groove. It appears might have been Tidrick. Yes, who was spun around. Ryan Maines helped him around in the 13, Greg.
Tough break for Daryl Tidrick in the 45. He was the guy I was talking about, Justin, and you said he had some help from 13 of Maines.
Yes. Yeah, Maines ended up clipping the apron essentially and trying to take an air angle potentially at this one. Either way, Tidrick taking another hard hit to his race car. We've seen him take a hard hit trying to take a wave before. Now he's all the way back in 20th position because of this situation. So a tough break with another caution flag, but Now you have to wonder what Sean Brightsman and co. are thinking, because now this really shuffles things again with pit stops.
Looks like everybody's making their way down. And Justin, you mentioned about 10 laps was about what you wanted for 2 tires. That run was just a handful over than 10, maybe 12 at the most. Anyone going to try 2 here?
There might be one.
Yeah, there is Brightsman.
Yeah, he does take 2 tires. He's the first driver off the pit lane, and he is the only driver in the top half of the field to take 2. Chad Malik also just took 2, but everyone else is on 4. And we've seen how Brightsman was comfortable with only a couple laps difference, Greg. I'm curious, though, how the difference is going to be for him on 12, because in a lot of cases, based on experience and based on discussions with drivers in the past on the strategy call, but that big of a split's comfortable for maybe 5, and then it gets uncomfortable.
We saw it worked for Brightsman, but there were a few extra laps on that set of tires. You know he wants to do it, so he figures, hey, this might be my shot, because he knew Travis Barnes was putting pressure on. I like the strategy call here by Sean Brightsman, changing it up as going against the norm, per se. Shootout coming at Texas, and oh boy, is all I can say.
By the way, Ryan Maines was given an end-of-the-longest line penalty for turning around the driver of Tidrick for the caution flag, so he'll lose track position. He did take a fast repair, by the way. O'Hare only had a 2-second pit stop getting damage repairs done, potentially, or indoor using his for fast repair on the race car. And how crazy has this race gone in terms of some of the positioning? Some of the cars that are taking waiver rounds here, Greg, were contenders just 10, 20 minutes ago. Devin West and Jeff Stabnow are in that situation where they're multiple laps down or 1 lap down to the minimum.
And Stabnow, I was kind of keeping my eye on him because we noted that he was back in the field after having to work his way up after a pit road penalty in the 24 car. He had gotten back up to 13th, as high as there, flirting with the top 10 again. Now he's a lap down in the 25th position before this waiver round.
I think he's still going to be a lap down even with the waiver round potentially here if I'm looking at the scoring right. Yes. He is still behind the 8 ball.
So tough break for Jeff Stabnow. Led some laps in the early going. He was the first one to really get up there and contend with Dan West Jr. when he was leading the way. It was Stabnow who really kind of opened the floodgates for trying to get around him before Travis Barnes was able to get his way back around. And now we see him and Devin West, the guy who got up as high as second and had really good long run speed that we saw early on in this race. They're both taking the waiver round down a lap, not the night that Devin West wanted for his Northwest Racing Cup Series debut.
By the way, Tidrick also just given an longest line penalty. Remember, he was also part of that caution flag. He did take his one and only fast repair after taking multiple hits to the 45, as the drivers will line up behind the official iRacing pace car. Now that's the waiver rounds in front of them. Rogers, Harris, Stabnow, and West. Brightsman will bring them to the green flag alongside Travis Barnes. In 3rd and 4th is McLaurin White. Frazier is in 5th. Roy Grande has quietly moved his way back up to 6th with all the racing going on the Taco Bell machine, with Carl Burke driving his Mobil 1 Mega car. Rolling back to, I believe, a V8 supercar in 7th alongside Brett Johnson. Ottenbacher and Bowser round out the top 10 at the moment in this field. Should be fun to see, again, how the bottom line cycles through and how the battles fight their way through.
And don't forget Brightsman on 2 tires as opposed to the rest of the field behind him on 4 tires. More laps on the left sides than they were the last time he took 2. That combined with the inside lane being the way it's working, Justin, this is going to be one heck of a restart. Do you think this is the last one, or do you think we're going to have another caution?
It's the question of, will the drivers keep it clean, or will we see cautions breed cautions? Sean Brightsman looking to bring them to the green flag on 2 tires. 12 lap split on them. He's off and away. Another massive start for the control car once more.
We've seen that all night. The car on the inside is able to get such a strong run. The car on the outside is always having to struggle and fight off the guy in third. And once again, the guy in third, Justin McClure, is able to get up there around Travis Barnes for second. McClure up, I believe, as high as he's been today, now up in the second spot. Frazier taking a peek to the outside of Travis Barnes. Chris White there. Here's Roy Grande. Where did he come from? You mentioned him under that caution before the restart. Grande was back up in sixth position. He's up there contending for the win here at the end of this one. But they're all chasing Sean Breitzman, who got a big jump on that initial start. But remember, 2 tires. How long before that really starts coming into play?
We'll have to see. Up in front of him, though, Chris White is the first driver to make a move for position. Seth Frazier loses the bottom, while the 83 able to give a bit of a squeeze. Chris White has been fighting with Frazier for the past 15 or so laps in this race, and just passing the 25 to go mark this upcoming time by, he's able to move himself to 4th position. That ties himself for his highest position tonight.
Chris White, he was up in 4th when he took that penalty on pit road, so has had to fight his way back through the field, has done it, and is now in contention at the end of the race. But here comes Frazier with a big run off of turn number 4, trying to make the inside lane work. Not going to happen this time, as White's able to shut the door. Meanwhile, Justin McClure slowly reeling in Sean Breitzman, as Frazier trying to make a higher line work through 1 and 2. He's going to lose touch with Chris White. That's going to set up a 3-car snake for the time being to try to reel in that purple 46 car.
And we'll have to see if McClure can lead that group forward. Last time by 2 100ths quicker than the race leader. This time, a 3-mile-an-hour difference at the start and finish line, and a caution flag behind them. Garber. It looked like Casey Garber might have got into Audenbacher to trigger that there, Greg.
Tough break there for Casey Garber as well. He was another one who had such a strong run going in the early stages, and definitely the second half of this race not going the way he wants.
Ryan Main's now done for the night, now joins the DNF list for this evening's event. Amongst some of the DNFs tonight, the 70th Susie Carpenter, along with Scott Mann, Bruce Lee Weaver also off the track, Eric Cheney, Corey Walters, Jesse Gray amongst the drivers who are off the racing circuit. But it was starting to get interesting because Breitzman was getting reeled in by 3-4 miles an hour just down the straightaway with how big the draft effect is down the straight lines. But now they get to have fun again, resetting for another restart.
And I'm wondering if anybody is going to try to gamble and take some tires here, sacrifice some track position. Looks like Frazier might be thinking about it. Perhaps. Oh, Breitzman thought about it.
Oh, and Chris White's doing it.
Wow. Everybody kind of backed out of it, and more guys near the back happened, but Chris White is going to be leading the parade down this time.
I'm shocked Chris White actually did that. I wonder if he might have thought, though, he was going to start on the top, Greg. I think he might have thought, may as well go in pit for tires since I'm going to lose positions anyway. He is now one of many who came down, just 8 stayed out.
So whoever wins this race off pit road will be restarting in the 9th position.
On the bottom.
Yeah, on the bottom. We'll see if anyone plays the strategy game here as they come off pit road. For Chris White, though, who kind of leads the battle off as one guy got out before him.
Yeah, the strategy card was played, Greg. You mentioned it, you called it. Many drivers took 2 this time. Burke, Malik, Paulison, Tillman all took 2 tires in this pit cycle since they only ran a couple laps.
Yeah, Justin, we saw this really work well for Sean Breitzman, and only 8 cars in front of him, 2 tires on with just a couple laps difference. I like the call.
Me too. This is a great call, I think, actually, in this point of the race. Get yourself on the bottom line, too, if you're Burke and Co.
So, interesting strategy, but like I was getting ready to say there with Chris White, I was kind of watching him. Frazier looked like he was coming in. Chris White made a last-minute decision, and Frazier was able to fake him out and go to the outside, so I'm wondering if Chris White was trying to do whatever Seth Frazier did, and Frazier pulled a fast one on him.
I'm wondering if he might have absolutely. It almost looked like that. But now it comes the question, who's going to come away with the victory? Under 20 laps to go in this race. Still, anything can happen. By the way, the 6 having to come down the pit lane again, so a problem for Chad Malik. He might have gotten a penalty, maybe. That's why he had to come down the second time. Not 100% sure. Unfortunate for him, was one of the drivers who tried to take 2.
And he's taking more tires on this pit stop. Looks like he's taking left sides as well. So, no, he just decided, you know what, I'm just going to come back in and put all 4 on.
So, sacrifices a lot more track position. He was going to be inside the top 12 in the start. But
this looks like he will restart 15th on the inside with 4 fresh tires.
Yeah, timing and scoring, showing him currently cycled into 18th position, should note, though, on this track. He was 15th last time in terms of lap-by-lap positioning, but now it's looking like 18 laps to go. You brought up if it was going to be the last caution flag, I think it's an error. We've seen the caution precautions the last time. Do you think that's going to keep happening?
The way this race has gone, I don't think we're done yet. Especially with how many different pit strategies we have, because now you have the different drivers on different strategies that are going to be trying to make their way through. Those drivers who are on 4 tires, they're mired deep in the field and not a lot of time to get up there. So if they want to make these 4 tires work, they got to go, and they got to go as soon as that green flag falls. We may start seeing some patience get thrown out the window here. I do not think we've seen the last caution.
Neither do I at this point. A couple drivers to keep an eye on here. Dan West Jr. is up to 7th position after having to use his fast repair. Remember, was a dominant car in the first third of this event. Keep an eye as well on Carl Burke. He's the first driver off the pit lane on 2 tires in 9th. Also keep an eye on the McDonald's machine, because once he starts on the bottom, it seems he gets into a good rhythm. He'll get the chance to fight McClure on this restart. Coming to 18 laps to go for the Texas two-step, 134 for tonight's racing action. Your quick thoughts before we take the green.
I'm wondering what that 10 car McClure is going to do. He has been the benefactor of being in the 3rd spot almost every single restart for the last 50 laps or so. Now he's in that position that falls victim to that 3rd place. He's the one I'm watching on this restart, is that 10 of McClure. He's been in the good position the whole time. Now he's in the position that struggles. I'm going to see how he responds to this.
The AOLs this time go to John Ottenbacher, Brett Johnson for the caution flag, as Brightsman will bring them to the green flag again. Looks for a good launch. He's off and away in first gear. This time didn't get a good run into second gear, but still gets a car length and a half into turn 1.
And for the first time all day, the outside car was able to hang with him a lot better. But this time, Brightsman has a good run in the turn 1 to pull away, but McClure was able to get down in front of Barnes. Barnes will fall into 3rd with Frazier 4th. So the outside lane, that was the best restart we've seen from the outside all day. Still wasn't able to get up there with Brightsman, but look at the run they have through 3 and 4. Justin, is that the difference between 4 tires and 2 tires right here that we're seeing?
I think it's more so in the corners right now. The draft does play a big equalizer. The caution, though, is out again. Stephen Bartlett, who started inside the top part of the field, spun around in the U.S. Army machine after stuffing into the safer barrier at the start and finish line. And you see that on the screen there, Greg, and big mistake from Bartlett.
After such a good position to be in, start this restart, just got it and stuffed it into the safer barrier. Man, what a tough break for that 79 car.
Yeah, now, after being in the top 10 for the past 15-20 laps, his reward for hitting the safer barrier is a demolished race car, back in 17th position. So now it gets back to resetting things again. Basically, the positions didn't really change hands inside the top 4, but because the quick timing of the caution flag, Grande got the bottom for this upcoming start. West Jr. also getting the bottom. Chris White also gets the bottom, potentially, on this upcoming start.
So a few guys who have made the inside lane work. will get the bottom, especially that 55 of Dan West Jr. He's the one I'm eyeing. Look at Seth Frazier kind of playing coy again and once again shooting up, but nobody takes the bait this time, Justin.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting that in a quarter of a lap.
Yeah, I don't know or if anyone would sacrifice track position at this stage on that amount. But hey, maybe Seth Frazier was like, hey, it worked before, I can try it again. Didn't work this time as no one takes the bait, but gotta admire the little tenacity there of Seth Frazier saying, hey, let's try it.
No, someone that did take the bait, so to speak. One of the drivers who had taken waiver rounds before. We talked about him up at the front early on. Jeff Stabnow is on the lead lap. He is the only driver who pit. He is now in 18th position. Going to be interesting to see how Jeff can carve his way through the field.
Stabnow has been one of the fastest cars all day long. Started well inside the top 5 in the 3rd position. Back on the lead lap now. He says, hey, I've got nothing to lose, and I don't think we're done with cautions. So Stabnow saying, hey, let's try it.
And he's off and away as the leaders are in turns 3 and 4. Again, intriguing point of this race here, coming to 14 laps to go under the caution flag. So far, Brightsman has been in control in this second third, coming to the final portion of this race. However, I'm curious to see if he can hold on here, because the draft has been big time a major effect down the straights, and he knows that if he loses that bottom, he's going to potentially lose the lead. He's been blocking and trying to break the slipstream every back straightaway whenever they get close.
And he's also on the 2-tire strategy when everyone behind him is on 4-tire strategy.
How do you think this is going to work out at this point for Brightsman?
If he can get a good enough restart like we've seen every time before, he might be in good position, because he's done so good on defense the second half of the race, getting up there, being able to keep the guys at bay. If he can get a good enough restart, get a big enough gap before they really settle down, we've seen Brightsman be able to play defense all day long. He might be able to make this work.
I think there's the possibility too, and it helps too when there's precautions, because that means less laps he has to run on those 2 tires.
So Brightsman, if you're Sean Brightsman, do you think you want to go for it for now, or do you want one more caution to set this up for an under 10-lap shootout?
I think maybe one more might be something to be able to make sure he holds on, if not 2. Your thoughts, Greg?
I would have to agree with that. I would at least want one more caution if I was Brightsman. Maybe 2 and set up a green-white checkered. We've seen if this goes to a green-white checkered, it's going to be hard to bet against that 46 car just with how good of a restart it's been. But we still got more than 10 laps to go in this one, so we're not quite into that bracket just yet. But if you're Sean Brightsman, you have to have that in the back of your mind. Hey, just how many more cautions am I going to have?
Coming towards 12 laps to go when they get the green flag. Once again to reset, Brightsman is the control car as the race leader in his purple 46. Justin McClure's in second, Travis Barnes third, Seth Frazier in fourth, Ray Grande rounds out the top 5. Ricky Bowser, a great recovery from him after being involved in some incidents early on, is in 6th, 7th position, lining up at the moment to be Dan West Jr. Carl Burke, Chris White in 8th and 9th. And Stephen Paulson, after having to take his fast repair earlier on, after the big one down the backstretch, rounds out the top 10. Keep an eye on Bill Ross Jr. as well. He's recovered to the 11th position after losing a lot of positions early on in this race. Gonna be fun to see who can control this race coming to 12 to go.
You have to give the early advantage for the initial lap and a half to Sean Brightsman, but honestly, I think a big deciding factor in this is going to be, can Justin McClure get down in front of Travis Barnes? We know Travis Barnes can get up there and compete with Brightsman, but if he has to get around McClure also, that could be exactly what that 46 car needs. So I'm going to be keeping an eye on the 10 car to see how he's able to respond. He had the best outside lane restart all day long, that last restart. He's going to have to pull it again here, Justin. Here we go.
Brightsman Off and away, green flags out. Travis Barnes times it up perfectly and gets up to second. What a start for the bottom line.
What a move by Travis Barnes. A power move for Ronald McDonald in the 3 car. Trying to get to the bottom, he will. And now he has a shot to try to reel in Sean Brightsman, I'm sorry. Almost said Travis Barnes reeling in Travis Barnes. But Barnes, he's got a little bit of a gap also between him and McClure as he's trying to really focus on pulling off the draft of the 46. And here you see it. What a run the McDonald's car gets from Brightsman. Look at Dan West Jr. back up into the top 5. He got past Seth Frazier on that restart. But look at Travis Barnes able to catch up to the bright purple 46 car. LSR TV on the hood, but McDonald's in the rearview mirror. Brightsman, Barnes, this is for the win.
Coming to 10 laps to go this time by at Texas Motor Speedway. Barnes already broken away by about half a second from 3rd position, and McClure has the draft. Will Brightsman block again? He did this the last time he got reeled in. This time does take the flatter arc as Barnes fills up that full back bumper. Sliding up the track though, here comes Barnes to the inside for the race lead.
Barnes with a great run there off turn number 2. He's going to have his nose inside into turn number 3. They're going to be door to door through 3 and 4. Oh, Barnes with a slip.
Barnes hits the apron, able to save it though, loses his momentum. Here comes McClure on the outside line. And this might be what Brightsman was looking for. A bit of a scrap to hold up Barnes. Barnes able to shove off McClure as he goes back to second.
If you're Travis Barnes, that is exactly how you needed to respond to that. You had to shake that battle off quickly and get right back to work on the 46 of Brightsman, and he has done just that. Here he comes again. All right, Justin, he knows what he did wrong there. How is he going to set it up differently? He takes a peek on the outside now. Might we see Barnes try the outside lane? Yes, we will. He's got to run. He might back off and try a crossover here through
Barnes.
1 and 2.
Yes, indeed. He's trying that run exactly. Will be able to get enough momentum to get to the bottom side of the 3. No, had to lift off the gas.
Brightsman shuts the door, but look at that. Barnes was peeking inside, outside, inside again. Right on the back bumper of Brightsman as they cross the strike. Here he comes to the bottom through 1 and 2. This is the turn zone that we talked about earlier.
Barnes on the preferred line in 1 and 2. Brightsman looking to defend on the top side. Drag race side by side for the race lead, coming to 6 laps to go. Can Barnes complete the pass this time? This time gives the squeeze. Brightsman set up the racetrack. He's able to save it. McClure falls through for second. Here comes Justin McClure in the Catmobile to try and make the move for the lead now.
Catmobile to the inside, and here he comes. Look out, he gets in the Barnes, exactly like what happened to Brightsman in turn 3 and 4 that last time by Justin McClure to the lead. 3 wide for the 3rd spot. Dan West Jr. gets up on 2 wheels, and we've got a neck behind him.
Chris White involved. He crashes into the field. Caution flag is out. Stab now involved. Devin West involved. And the big one happens again down the backstretch, both times involving West Jr. at crucial points of the race. What a time for that to happen, Greg, with that.
3 wide for 3rd spot, and man, oh man, what a tough break for Dan West Jr., who had fought back. Just contact with Seth Frazier, knocked him up in the wrist, right? Boyd LeGrand involved there as well, and man, oh man, they bottlenecked behind him. And this one looks like we may be going possibly to overtime, not sure.
Yeah, we're right now in that window where green-white checkered is a possibility. But here is how they reset now, because the caution flag, we'll have to see if anyone ducks down. McClure, Brightsman, Barnes, Frazier, and Burke are in the top 5. No one taking a peek down the pit lane this time. Everyone saying, we're on these tires, we're keeping these positions. Now it's going to be interesting. McClure, the race leader, and he's had a problem a lot of times in 1 and 2 tonight, Greg. He's got a lot of fast cars that have figured that corner out behind him for this green-white checkered.
But he's on the inside, which has been a lane that he is much stronger than the outside. So maybe those problems in turn 1 and 2 had to do with him being on the outside. We've seen that as a common thread all day long. McClure, I think, may have been biding his time and used the advantage of the fact that Barnes and Brightsman kind of came together in 3 and 4 on that pass when Barnes took the lead. McClure came back and did the exact same move to Barnes just one corner later. Justin, Seth Frazier, in 4th place, has just been given an end-of-the-line penalty.
He was one of the cars in the 3 wide there, and I think they're faulting him for that move potentially.
Possibly. We did see it was contact between Frazier and West that triggered that initial contact. Maybe Frazier said, hey, you know what, that's on me and I'll take the penalty.
That's exactly what it is, because we've seen there with Frazier coming down and that caused the big one, and now this is detrimental to his race in this point. You're not going to gain all those spots back in 2 laps in 3 miles.
You're going to have to hope and pray that another big one happens and everybody wrecks in front of you if you're Seth Frazier. Honestly, that's your only shot at this point.
Coming towards 3 to go for the racetrack at the moment. They should get the signal for a green-white checkered the next time by. That's how things work in the iRacing service. There is the factor, though, in the green-white checkered that you must make it to the white flag at the stripe for the race to be official. Any incident before the white flag at the start and finish line will trigger another green-white checkered attempt or a caution flag. If they cross the stripe, the race is official. Any wrecks that happen afterwards will not trigger a caution, and it will be a race to the finish. By the way, John Ottenbacher is now gunning an EOL as well under this caution flag. He was in 13th last time by the stripe.
Ottenbacher's rough night continues. Been more bad than good, but he had some good. He was able to get back up into the top 10 with the damaged race car. Unfortunately, he's another one whose night is going to end on a sour note with an end of longest line penalty. So, Justin, it's the other Justin up front. Justin McClure leading the way. Sean Brightsman on 2 tires still. Remember, in that 46 car, the left sides have 12 more laps on him than everybody else around him. Dan West Jr. is still up there in 5th after the incident. How about Carl Burke sitting in 4th after starting 22nd? We've only said his name when we check in with him and say, hey, he's up there in the mix. Here we are talking about him again. 4th place here on a green-white checkered.
Here's something to chew on too, Greg. He's got, if I'm looking at the calculations right, 9 lap fresher tires. He did come in on a different caution flag, so he has a little bit fresher tires in that 4th position. Same case for Bill Ross Jr., Casey Tillman. And also don't forget, the drivers who were just involved in that last big one and had a faster pair like Chris White, they're on even fresher tires by nearly 20 plus laps.
Do you think there's enough time for them to go, if this race goes green, to the checkered on this first attempt? Do you think these guys back here, 5th, 6th on back, have enough time?
I don't know if there's going to be enough time, but it's going to make things chaotic in 4th on back here in a moment.
Absolutely. Dan West Jr., he was the fastest car the first half of the race. He's back up in 5th, starting on the inside. Travis Barnes starting on the inside. Justin McClure, he's been stuck on the outside. He finally gets a shot to lead him to the green flag, starting on the pole for this restart. Sean Brightsman, fastest car in the second half, 12 laps on those left side tires, more than the 10 and the 3. Everyone else behind him has fresher tires than they do. This is going to be wild.
Fasten your seatbelts. It's going to be a roller coaster ride. The first of 2 green-white checkered attempts. Will we make it to the white flag is the question. Justin McClure brings them to the restart zone. Green flag waves. Great start for Brightsman on the outside, but a better jump for McClure down on the bottom.
Brightsman's going to have to get a run right now to the inside. He gets to the bottom of the track, pulling up now on the back bumper of McClure. Here comes Travis Barnes. Barnes had the lead for 1 lap on that last run. Here comes Brightsman once again, going into 3 and 4, door to door. Brightsman and McClure. Here comes Travis Barnes. 3-car race for the lead at the white flag.
Brightsman looking to see it. Will get it. 1 to go. 1.5 miles to go from Texas Motor Speedway. Contact for second. Barnes and McClure tangle. Barnes tries to send it on the inside line. Will Brightsman hold on as they go down the backstretch?
Final time at speed, contact behind him. It's going to be a two-car wreck as McClure goes around. Two-car race for the line. Brightsman, Barnes, here they come, Justin.
Barnes gets the draft. Brightsman with the block. Sean Brightsman wins at Texas. Travis Barnes holds on to second. Burke, Ross Jr. and White round out the top 5.
Unbelievable finish. What a run there by Sean Brightsman. The two-tire strategy worked not once, but twice, and he pulls it off.
For Brightsman, it's his first win on the season, and what a way to come away with the checker flag tonight. It was not an easy one, to say the very least, with the way this fight went.
Chris White coming up and giving Sean Brightsman a congratulatory bump. After that, Travis Barnes coming home in second. Great run for him, but like you said, that was not easy for the 46 of Sean Brightsman there, Justin. That was an incredible battle from start to finish. Sean Brightsman well deserved to be burning it down here on the Texas Motor Speedway front stretch.
And don't forget, he gets the privilege of being the first driver in the Northwest Cup Series to win at this new configuration. And he looked dominant much of this race, started from 16th, but the time he reached the front, he showed his raw muscle to win by about 6/100ths of a second. Heck of a performance tonight for Sean Brightsman as there goes West Jr. to say hello as well. Good time to quickly run over the unofficial race results. Brightsman takes the win. Barnes, Burke, Ross Jr. rounds out the top 4. Chris White finished in 5th. Dan West Jr. finished in 6th with Casey Tillman in the 7th spot. Ricky Balzer finished in 8th. Brett Johnson and Frank Harris rounded out the top 10 tonight, Greg.
Coming home in the 11th spot is Daniel Masters in the 03. Good run for him. Stephen Bartlett rallies back to finish 12th. Justin McClure, after being up in the mix on the final lap, got nosed into the inside wall. He comes home in the 13th position. Gary Nichols and Steve Paulison round out the top 15 with John Ottenbacher, Scott Hutchinson, Seth Frazier after a late penalty, Roy Grande, and Chad Malik rounding out the top 20.
21st possession, Jeff Stabnow 6 laps down. Daryl Tidwick in 22nd, 8 laps down. Devin West, Casey Garber, Stephen O'Hare in 23rd through 25th. Dan Rogers finished in 26th, Ryan Maines in 27th, Brian Barnes 28th, Dan Stuzzi 29th, and Scott Mann ran out the top 30. Rest of the DNFs, Brad Carpenter 31st, Bruce Weaver, Eric Cheney, Corey Walters, Jesse Gray ran out the drivers who made starts. Ray Fournier and Joshua Beal finish with DNSs tonight. The Clan War Servers post-race show coming up after a quick break. We'll be back in just a moment. Welcome back to LSR TV's coverage of the Northwest Cup Series here at Texas Motor Speedway for the Clan War Servers post-race show. Clan War Servers is the official communication partner of LSR TV. A heck of a performance tonight. We're standing by with some of the top performers this evening. First things first, standing by with me here after a crazy race is your 5th place finisher, Chris White. Chris, you went up and down the running order a couple times over. How are you feeling coming away with the top 5 in that crazy one? Chris White, do you have a copy? It appears we have lost Chris White. Apologies there. Let's try second place's Travis Barnes then. Travis, you were a front contender much of this race. How does it feel to come away second tonight, and what was a thrower?
It feels great. I feel like I could have given it a little bit more, but it felt great running up front. It seems like to be the best move throughout the whole race, just stay up front, see what everyone was doing.
Talk us through the final restart of the race, because you had one shot to try and make a move and had a big run down the back straight and down the front stretch. Heck of a fight. Talk us through your battle with Sean Brightsman.
Yeah, I started in second gear. Everyone else was starting in first. I thought I was going to spin it, but everybody seemed to get on the loud pedal pretty quickly. Into turn 3, Justin and Sean got together and were racing, and I caught up with them. And then I went with Sean underneath of him, and then coming through the front stretch at the end of it, Justin and I got together, and he got up into the wall, and I was still batting with Sean coming out of turn 2, and then coming out of 4. It was just down from there. There's no way I was going to be able to get to him.
Yeah, it was a crazy race, though, either way. How difficult was it to try and fight for positions like that? Because it looked from the broadcast booth, if you weren't on the bottom, you were a sitting duck.
That's exactly how it felt. Sean did a really good job of holding that inside line. Made it really hard to pass, but just props to him. Did a really, really, really good job on older tires, so deserved the win.
Next race, Homestead Miami Speedway, 100 laps distance. It will be at least a one-stopper on the fuel and tires. Your thoughts on that racetrack?
It's going to be fun. I definitely expect a lot of hard racing like we had here at Texas, and I can't wait for it.
Anyone you want to thank for being a part of your top 2 finish tonight?
I'd like to thank my uncle. He just gave me a little bit of tips, but that's about it. Thanks everybody watching at home, and thanks for broadcasting this, guys.
Thank you very much for the time, Travis. Congratulations on second place.
Thank you.
That was Travis Barnes coming home in the McDonald's machine in P number 2. Your race winner is standing by with Greg Rentz. That is Sean Brightsman. Greg, over to you.
Sean Brightsman, you got a copy. Greg Rentz, LSR TV booth.
Absolutely, Greg.
Hey, man, we were talking about it all day long. You were the one that was kind of leading that 2-tire strategy, and you made it work there. We were a little concerned about the difference there with 12 laps on the tires, on the left side tires, but you made it work, and it just stuck for you, man. How'd you do that?
I'll skip. No, just luck, really, to be honest. I wasn't sure 2 tires worked. I took 2 tires and got around Devin and Dan, and it felt really good. So I went for it. Was like, I need to stay out in front. That's where I need to be to even give myself a shot at this win. And 2 tires did it. I did lose the lead a little bit, but a great restart and just great battling with Justin and Travis and everybody in the top 5.
And tell us about that last lap with Travis, because it was to the wire. Final margin of victory was 6/100ths of a second. Tell us about that battle, because you guys were side by side coming to take the white flag. You got the lead, and he came right back at you, right on your bumper through turn 3 and 4. Tried to get a move to the inside, but you held him off. Tell us about that last lap.
Oh man, yeah, Travis was on it all night long. Really, he was definitely applying the pressure. I figured if I could hold the bottom, really entering one, I pushed up, entered a little hard, and I think Travis kind of did the same thing. So we kind of equaled out there. But if he would have entered, low and stayed low, there's a good chance he would have made the pass down the backstretch into 3. But I think we both just overdrove the turn 1, and I was able to kind of block him per se and keep him low enough that he didn't have the momentum to get by me there at the start-finish line.
Sean, it's your first Cup win of the season. Last week, you were able to jump 11 spots in the point standings, and this should have a pretty big jump tonight with the way the race went for some of the guys you're chasing. So we're looking for another big jump from you this week. So here's shaping up in the early standings. It's been pretty competitive. Seth Frazier with 2 wins. Now you've got a win to go alongside Corey Walters, who had a rough night as well. So it looks like you're once again shaping up to be one of the top dogs in the points.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, we're race 4, race 3, race 4 of 7 or 37. So we got a long ways to go. I'd love to stick up top all the way till the chase, but really once that chase starts, it's another scramble for the top finisher. So.
All right, well, we'll let you go celebrate the win, but before we do, we know you have a lot of shout-outs you want to give, so run them down for us.
Oh, absolutely. I gotta thank LSR TV for giving me a fast Toyota Camry tonight. Boy, was it fast. Thank you, guys. Got to give it up to the Northwest Racing Series. Everybody there has done a great job. We had a great race tonight. There's lots of give and take. Central Welding Supply for everything they do. And finally, the team, the working together, Wicked Chassis Racing and all that. So big shout out to everybody there.
All right, that's your winner here at Texas, the first-time winner here at the new Texas Motor Speedway. First win of the year, Sean Brightsman. Congratulations.
Thank you, Greg.
Well, Justin, that wraps it up here with Victory Lane, and what a race it was.
What a race indeed, and clarifications given from a couple drivers after tonight. Part of the reasons for the end of longest line penalties, remember that new incident limit, that was a factor in a lot of the penalties. Seth Frazier in that 3-wide incident, for example, did trigger that, and it was a stop and go, so he was one of the drivers who ended up having to come back down the pit lane because of that new incident cap brought on for tonight's race. But Greg, it was an exciting one up to the front. Your quick thoughts before we say goodbye.
One of the best races I've ever seen in a Cup car on the iRacing server. Was competitive from start to finish, as evident by just 6/100ths of a second. A wild race here. I'm excited not just for Thursday when the Truck Series comes here to the new Texas. I'm excited for next week as well.
Next week sees the Cup Series head to Homestead Miami Speedway. 100 laps of racing action, 150 miles. It should be an exciting one. You can catch that on OSR TV on March the 30th. Broadcast starts at 11:10 p.m. Eastern Time, 8:10 p.m. Pacific. But with that, it's time to say goodbye. For Greg Rentz, for Director Charles Wooden, I'm Justin Prince saying so long and enjoy the rest of your Monday night. Congratulations to Sean Brightsman on winning your first race in the Cup Series schedule.
This broadcast is the copyrighted work of LSR TV and may not be rebroadcast, retranslated, or used in any form without the express written consent of 52 Media LLC and iRacing.com Motorsports Simulations. LSR TV would like to thank you for your support, and we hope you enjoyed tonight's broadcast.